Just coming in the room, if you do want to speak on a specific agenda item, please fill out one of the public participation sheets. They're on the little table over there. That way we'll call them in order that they're received to speak on that specific agenda item. If it does get crowded in here, there is an additional viewing area that's out in the hall by the main lobby. It'll be simulcasting the Zoom platform. And then even if you wanted to come in to speak at that time, I'll announce it on here and give you that leadway to walk back. So just to note that there is an additional viewing area in the lobby. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's 8:30. I call this Sawyer County Zoning Committee meeting to order. Roll call, Kathy, please.
Ron Buckholz,
Present.
Bruce Paulson,
Here.
Dawn Pettit, Jesse Betcher, Tweed Schuman,
Here.
Stacy Hessel. Here. Thank you.
Okay, let's do the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay,
Don't, because you're the
statement
applicant, but thanks.
of committee and hearing procedure statement, hearing notice. The full statement of the committee and hearing procedure document, including directions for individuals wishing to speak at a public hearing to be conducted at this zoning committee meeting, are available in front of this room next to the agenda for today's meeting. The statement of committee and hearing procedure documents are hereby incorporated into the record for this committee meeting. Any public hearing conducted today in committee meeting has been published as a Class 2 notice in accordance with Chapter 985 of the Wisconsin statutes in the Sawyer County Record and the Sawyer County Gazette and posted. Okay. Approval of the February 18th minutes. I need a motion to approve.
Before we get to that, I do see that Dawn Pettit is on. Dawn, can you state your name, please?
I'm here, gentlemen. I just was having computer issues. My office got moved.
Thank you, Dawn.
Mhm.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the February 18th, 2020 minutes.
So moved.
I'll second, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hessel and a second by Mr. Schuman to approve the February 18th, 2022 minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries to approve. Okay, public comment. Please note, comment time is intended for the general public comments, not comments related to a specific application before this committee. Each agenda item requiring a public hearing will have its public hearing conducted just prior to the application being considered by this committee. If you wish to speak on a specific agenda item, we encourage you to hold your comments until then. Okay. Is there anybody out there that would like to speak in public comment?
I have one sheet here for Linda Zilmer. Do you want to discuss it or do you want me to read your comments?
Linda Zilmer, 902 Holly Hill Lane,
You have 3 minutes.
Virgin, Wisconsin, Edgewater property owner. And I'm speaking as someone who was on a planning committee and a plan commission at a town level to create a comprehensive plan, as well as also being a member of the county committee that did the 2021 update to the county's comprehensive plan. Prior to the start of the meeting, there was some conversation about the findings of fact sheets that this committee uses as they develop their decisions. And that finding of fact sheet is basically about at least 17 years old. That's how long I've been coming consistently to zoning committee meetings. And it predates Wisconsin's comprehensive planning law and also the county's comprehensive plan. So I have communicated with the zoning administrator that an update to the findings of fact and conclusions of law should incorporate the committee's consideration of the county comprehensive plan and maybe any input from towns on the town plan as to what was intended. And also provided a 2-page document that's found on the Department of Administration website regarding the consistency requirement when making decisions. So please keep in mind, we have a number of important decisions today. Take that into consideration as well as your standard sheet. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Anybody else want to speak on public comment? Any hands up, Mike?
No hands up.
Okay. All right, Jay.
All right, moving on. First rezone application. This is rezone 22-002, owner Hathaway Lodge LLC, Town of Edgewater. This has been requested to be postponed until the April 22nd zoning committee meeting. I would need a quick motion to postpone it to that date.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to postpone rezone number 22-002 until our April 22nd zoning committee meeting.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion by Mr. Schuman and a second by Mr. Paulson to postpone rezone number 22-002 until our April 22nd meeting. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Next, we have rezone number 22-005, owner James and Rosemary Rhea. We did receive correspondence in the letter, in an email, as well as a phone call from the applicant. This was dated Wednesday, March 16th. We no longer wish to rezone our property in Stone Lake. Thanks, Jim and Rose Rhea. With that, it looks like the applicants are wishing to withdraw, and we can take that as a motion and withdraw the application.
Okay, so Jay, we can do both of these either with the rezone and the discussion part of it.
I would think, yeah, I would think any motion would hold both of those.
Both those?
Yeah, I mean, the owner's requesting an
Okay.
owner withdraw of the application. So,
Okay, all right. Okay,
We need a motion to do that?
Yes.
If so, I would make a motion to honor the applicant's request to withdraw the application.
And I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
okay, we have a motion by Mr. Paulson and a second by Mr. Schuman to withdraw, okay, sorry. Rezone number 22005. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
all right, moving on to conditional use permit applications. This is a public hearing, the Town of Winter conditional use permit number 22-004, owner Sean and Stephanie Melvery, the southwest one quarter, the northwest one quarter, section 23, township 39 north, range 5 west, parcel 032-539-232301, 40 total acres, zoned agricultural 1. Purpose of the request is to have a U-Haul dealership under a new and used car sales as per section 17.4, parent B, parent 16. The maximum number of units would be for 10 trucks and 10 trailers. As part of my staff report. Again, the request is to have a U-Haul dealership. This was brought up to zoning committee, whether it was in January or December, and whether or not a U-Haul dealership would kind of fall in lines with a new or used car establishment. Zoning committee said that, yeah, that is a very similar type of use there. So per the applicant's statement, the maximum number of rentals would be 10 trucks and 10 trailers, as per their U-Haul representative. The applicant works from home and will be on site from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Drop-offs and pickups would be available 24/7 on an on-site drop box. Immediate neighbors are on 80+ acres with no direct view of the property, with a straight line distance of over 600 feet from where these U-Hauls would be placed. There are 2 large mature pine trees that would be removed as to increase visibility along Highway 70. The location of these trees of the rental units are included with the maps in this packet. Again, this falls under section 17.4, parent B, parent 16. Per the town, motion was approved. Ronald Barnaby, chairman, Ronald Fandry, supervisor, John Sherlisky, supervisor. No additional comments. Signed, Lori Van Winkle, town clerk. There were 4 opinion letters sent out, 2 were returned, both with no objections. I have no objections. Gary Kelschlecki. I have no objections. David Chattis. There's all.
Chasky.
Thank you.
Okay. I need a motion to go into public hearing on CUP number 22-004.
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I'll second it.
we have a motion by Ms. Pettit and a second by Ms. Hessel to go into public hearing on CUP number 22-004. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We are now in public hearing. Is the applicants here?
Here.
Would you step forward, state your name and your address and tell the committee, talk to the committee?
My name is Sean Malarkey, address N5904, State Road 70, Winter, Wisconsin, 54896.
What would you like to tell us, sir?
Just that, it's just a fairly straightforward request. We got approval through the town board. There's no U-Haul dealerships within a 40-mile radius of Winter, so it'd be a huge benefit to the local community. Again, I got the larger pine trees that would kind of obstruct the view of the trailers from 70. I wouldn't be removing any pine trees. They would be there to obstruct or to kind of protect the view off of 70, so you're not seeing the trailers. So they're kind of be tucked in below those pine trees.
Okay. Any questions for them? Go ahead, Mr. Schuman.
Sir, is this like prime agricultural land or is this like a hayfield or a pasture land or what is it? Is this all open?
Yeah,
This area?
it's pretty much open. There's a small 15-acre field that's being cropped for hay. And there's an old abandoned pasture that isn't being used, about 15 acres. And the rest is kind of marsh wetlands in the back.
Okay. Thank you.
I have questions.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
This is prime agricultural land. This sits on the highway. It's a residential area outside of the town of Winter. There's areas closer to the town of Winter in the business district that would be more suitable for this kind of establishment. This is going out towards County Road B. And Mr. Kalcheski lives across the road from it. There's farming on both sides of the road. He farms that field and there's farming throughout the rest of the way for hay and other things. This is not an area, I guess. This is where the yellow house sits, correct? It used to
Ron,
be-
excuse me.
Yeah,
You should wait until we
Okay.
get through the discussion and action item.
okay. My question would be, would he maintain the property correctly with this kind of dealership in the area?
Yes, I would. We've been cleaning up the property. It was there's a lot of neglect of the property, and this would help us kind of clean up the rest of the property and do some other maintenance projects.
And from the map, it looks like the, is it the Barber Creek runs behind the home and connects to the Bruni River, correct?
Yeah, that's on the far end of the 40-acre parcel. And there's an additional 20-acre parcel that connects with the Barber Creek, but it's on the far eastern end of the 40-acre parcel.
And so you're gonna put this up front where the trees are at?
Correct.
So it'll be viewed from the highway?
Well, the pine trees would obstruct, would protect the view of those trailers from traffic off the 70.
Yeah.
So are you taking down that barn? Are you gonna take down that barn that's there?
It's already removed.
Okay,
Dawn, excuse me. You have to discuss this when it gets into the discussion action.
okay.
So we should wait until then for you to talk about that. Okay? All right. Thank you, Steve.
This is public comment.
Mhm.
Board comment.
Gee, do we have any opposition?
No, but you probably still want to ask if there's any other.
Is there
people in
any
favor.
other out there that would like to speak in favor of this CUP? Is there anyone out there that'd like to speak in opposition of this CUP? No hands up, Mike?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. With that, I need a motion to come out of public hearing on CUP number 22-004.
I'll make it.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion by Ms. Pettit and a second by Ms. Hessel to come out of public hearing on CUP number 22-004. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries.
This is the discussion action in the town of Winter, conditional use permit number 22-004, Sean and Stephanie Mulgrew. Legal description is previously read into record. This request is per section 17.4, parent B, parent 16, for a U-Haul dealership that would fall under a new or used car sales establishment. Maximum number of units to be 10 trucks and trailers. As part of the staff report and list of possible conditions, which you can either add to or delete, that the maximum be set at 10 vehicles and 10 trailers on site at any time, that a 24/7 rental box with lock boxes permitted, that all signage meets Sawyer County zoning ordinance requirements per the zone district, that all other town, county, state, federal laws are followed.
Okay, committee, what's your,
Can I now go?
I have to wait to get a motion in a second before we can
Nope.
discuss it.
You're in
right?
discussion.
Oh, okay, yeah, go ahead, Don, sorry.
Okay. Again, this is off of 70 past, it's between W and B. So you have you have downtown Winter and you go out, this has got to be about 5 miles out of town or more. It was a old farm and in fact, it was the old Cecil farm. It is in disarray as of right now. So that's my hesitation on this. This is not common for the area there. There is homes all along with the 40 parcels, they're farming. And then we have new people that have started buying along the highway and are building homes. That's where my hesitation comes from. This is not, it's not common to the area to have a rental or a U-Haul this out of town. Usually it's in town. The gas station's in town. There's a mechanic store. There's buildings that are available in town there's a parcel for sale for this where the old wood shop was. I'm just not comfortable putting this on Highway 70 going out towards Park Falls when you have a farming community around it. The Barber Creek is behind it. And then that's added traffic onto the highway right in that area. That is well traveled because the Tuscobia runs behind there. Snowmobilers, we have everybody, ATVers. There's all houses along there, cabins. The farther you go down towards Park Falls. So that's where I'm hesitant about this.
Is that it, Ms. Pettit?
Yes.
Thank you. And I'm familiar with where this is also in Winter. So is there any more discussion here, board?
Well, I guess I just want to confirm, Jay, that the town board approved this,
Yep.
correct? And there were no objections from the opinion letters sent out?
Nope. 4 opinion letters were sent out, 2 were returned, both with no objections. And the town did approve.
For that reason, I'll make a motion to approve the CUP 22-004.
Okay, I have a motion. We have a second. Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hessel and a second by Mr. Paulson to approve CUP number 22-004. All in favor, or roll call, Kathy, please.
Tweed Schuman,
Yes.
Stacy Hessel,
Yes.
Ron Buckholz.
Yes.
Bruce Paulson,
Yes.
Dawn Pettit,
No.
4-1.
Okay, so purposes of your motion and your decision, I'm just trying to make the record clear. You made a finding that it is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan because it's properly zoned, is that correct?
No, our findings and facts is that it's not damaging to the rights of the property of others.
I just want to put in the comprehensive plan statement, because she's right, you should have that in your decision making.
Correct, but it was approved by the township, so that's why I am approving it.
And all I want you to say, it is consistent with the comprehensive plan, because if it's zoned correctly, it's consistent with this comprehensive plan.
Great.
Thank you.
Well, we're learning then.
I just want that in the record so that there's not a question later.
Thank you. Okay. Next.
Yep. One second.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
No other
Didn't mean-
findings of facts.
That there's no air pollution problem.
Quality. and stuff
Yes,
like that.
correct.
Okay,
Would be in that.
yes,
We're approving.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on. This is conditional use permit application number 20. (22-005). Public hearing in the town of Edgewater, owner Beverly Scar, agent Joshua O'Rourke, part of government lot 1, section 33, township 38 north, range 9 west, parcel 008-93833-5108. Parcels 44.84 total acres, zoned forestry 1 and residential recreational 1. Purpose of the request is to have a 1,000 square foot commercial building for recreational sales and marina per section 17.2 parent B parent 3. This request would be only for the land east of County Highway F between the road and Lake Shetek, which is approximately 3.06 acres. As per the applicant's statement, they are requesting to build an approximately 1,000 square foot building on the property that would serve as a dock and lift service center, but also have other aspects of a marina that would rent boats, minor repair parts, and possible bait sales. The building would include a front office area, a small break room, boat parts for basic repairs, bait sales, and a small pavilion. Future storage sheds for slip customers would also be included as part of this request, but would need to meet applicable setbacks. At this time, no formal plans or building layouts have been discussed with Sawyer County Zoning and Conservation Department. The Sawyer County Zoning and Conservation Department would have an on-site inspection conducted after the spring melt to accurately lay out the driveways and proposed buildings. As part of one of the conditions for potential approval, it would be recommended that a licensed engineer would sign off on any plans for the driveway installation and building proposals related to the grading and erosion aspects. This site certainly has some topography challenges with it, but through careful planning and water diversion techniques, this site could be developed. The owner would work with the Conservation Department to ensure site stability. The boat slips and marina aspects as they relate to on water would require DNR approval or need to meet specific guidelines from the DNR, which are included in the pier planner information distributed by the DNR. The owner would also need to obtain a driveway permit from Sawyer County Highway Department for the access onto County Highway F. As part of some of the conditions I've laid out in my staff report, that the main building not to exceed 1,200 square feet, approximately 1,000 square feet, that business hours to be conducted between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. with the majority of the summer, depending on daylight. That an engineer approved plan be required for the driveway installation and building locations as it relates to erosion control and grading aspects of the property. That Sawyer County Highway approval would be required for the driveway permit for access on the County Highway F. That all signage would meet the Sawyer County zoning ordinance requirements for the zone district. That all other town, county, state, federal laws are followed, including the DNR approval for docks, piers, and wharfs. As part of the town's decision, motion was approved. Pete Baraboo, chairman, Jerry Barra, supervisor, Bill Zimmer, supervisor. There's attached additional minutes. It just says, see attached additional minutes, and I don't have those attachments. I was at that meeting virtually as well. They did approve it. They didn't list any other conditions unique to the town, and that was signed Natalie Clemens, town clerk. There were 12 opinion letters sent out, 7 returned, 2 no objections, 5 with objections. I do not believe the committee members received these, so I will read them into record. I have no objections, Catherine Ingersoll Trust. I have no objections, Catherine Ingersoll Trust, and own multiple pieces of land there. I have objections to this. I respectfully request a permit not be approved for the commercial building. This amounts to essentially rezoning the lot. We are really talking about more than putting a commercial building on a lot that was zoned for forestry and residential recreational property, but also what goes along with recreational sales marina that has no limitations set on them. What is the limit on what they can spread out across the property? How big of a parking lot will they need? Where will the lot runoff go? How many boats or pontoon lifts, trailers, docks, or watercrafts will be stored throughout the property? Will there be ATV or UTV rentals? And what will the hours of sales be? They are not going to paint that picture, but I'm pretty sure we have all been by recreational sales marina locations. I think most property owners would say that the move to commercialize this property will result in a negative impact to property values on this part of the lake. Areas like this are important to natural resources, and the zoning committees of the past realized there is a lot more value in creating measures so landowners of the present and future would not see their property values fall. Signed, Eric and Jennifer Hayden. I have objections to this. I bought the property less than a year ago. To the privacy that the porch offered. A commercial building infringes on this. Jeffrey and Jean Hartman. I have objections to this. Dangerous driveway for commercial building access. Lot does not seem suitable for this need, probably best suited for residential. Lake is busy enough with bars, etc. There are very few empty lots left on the lake, and it would be nice to see them preserved, not open up to a business. Jeffrey and Lacey Richardson. I have objections to this. Having a marina and recreational sales building will adversely affect our property. Such a facility would greatly increase boat traffic and make one waterfront much more dangerous for our children and grandchildren. This would definitely also negatively impact our property values. Signed, Kathleen Pettit. I have objections to this. Please see attached conditions. They have quite a few listed here. They would like to make it amendable to the conditional use. I'll read those. We appreciate the opportunity to express the opinion regarding this land use proposal. They have property along Heron Creek and Little Sisbegma Road that they purchased in 1995. We're looking for land that would provide low density outdoor recreation and hunting opportunities. We have not been disappointed. We have enjoyed the remote experiences of tent camping, snowshoeing, and hiking, the magic beauty of the nighttime sky in the woods, hence the development of a 1,000 square foot structure for recreational sales and marina on adjacent land does not elicit some questions and perhaps concerns. It is reassuring that the County Zoning Commission has identified possible conditions for approval as noted in the conditional use permit request staff report. What I would like to add to the list of possible conditions is that all marina outdoor lighting will be restricted to 5,500 lumens per acre, consistent with residential use as articulated in standard section 6 and 7 of the Town of Edgewater's ordinances and standards. Given that the property is zoned residential recreational 1, residential conditions and standards are measured by lumens should be applied to all outdoor lighting. That the proposed commercial build, this is number 2, the proposed commercial building and accessory structures supporting marina operations be limited to the yellow highlighted areas understood to be on the property owned by Beverly Scar as included in the conditional use application. That was further cemented within the staff report that this request is only for the east side of County Highway F. And that all business associated with the marina, including seasonal and off-seasonal storage of boats and lifts, will be conducted on the parcel of the property highlighted in yellow lying east of County Highway F. Encroachment of commercial interests onto the west side of County Highway F would not be compatible with existing land use for adjacent land parcels that are zoned Forestry 1 and used for low intensity recreation activities and hunting. Even though the CUP is understood to pertain only to the yellow portion, we would like to see that limitation in writing. Thank you sincerely, William Schmeitzer. And I have one more, just that I am objecting to the conditional use permit request for the following reasons. County Highway F is already heavily traveled road. Not only do we have vehicle traffic and logging trucks on the road, but within the last few years, many ATVs traveling illegally from the south of my property to reach the ATV trails to the north. Granting of the CUP would only add to the already hazardous travel. We used to walk this road every morning, and now it has become too hazardous. Building a marina would also increase the boat traffic on the lake, and thus turning what used to be a beautiful, quiet fishing lake into a noisy and congested recreational lake. Wildlife would also be affected. We currently have many bald eagles on the lake, and some of them are nesting near this property. There are also many deer that come from what is left on the woods of this property to drink from the lake. Allowing this variance would only threaten their existence. Property value is also a major concern. Our property taxes have gone up, and adding this commercial building would only decrease the value of the residential homes near this building. I also question the reason for another marina. There are already 2 marinas in town. What I see happening now is a bunch of boats, ATVs, snowmobiles, jet skis, all parked in a big lot, not to mention the possibility of increased crime. The township of Edgewater is now a quiet residential area, and I would like it to stay that way. I thank the zoning committee in advance for considering my objections to this proposed CUP request. Signed, Barbara Husby. That is all.
You got one question. I guess I'm wondering why this is coming before us now, when how they know they're gonna be able to get all their permits.
As far as the DNR,
DNR, yeah.
if they meet the standards of the DNR Pure Planner guidelines, the DNR wouldn't need to offer any additional permissions. So the DNR allows 1 boat slip, 1 dock with 2 boat slips for the first 50 feet, and 1 additional boat slip for every full 50 feet thereafter. They have quite a considerable amount of frontage. I believe it was over 700 feet.
Okay.
So in essence, you could have 15 dock slips. Now, again, there's a dock would have 2 slips, 1 on either side. But you'd still, because of the amount of frontage, would be allowed 15 slips. So you could hold 15 boats in a series of potentially 8 different piers. Now, they may look at wanting to do more of a tree branch scenario, which would be commonly referred to as a wharf. Now, that would need DNR approval.
Okay. All right. Okay, you're done then, Jay?
Yes.
All right, I need a motion to go into public hearing on CUP number 22-005.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion by Mr. Schulman and a second by Ms. Pettit to go into public hearing on CUP number 22-005. Okay, we are now in public hearing. All right, is the applicant here? State your full name and address, please.
Name's Joshua O'Rourke, at 143 County Highway MD in Sterling, Wisconsin, 54870.
What would you like to tell us?
Did you guys read the letter that I had on the back? Because the part that wasn't there, I fully understand there's a heck of a lot of confusion or a lot of questions with what's going to happen. This is step 1. Some confusion that right off the bat is it is just the lake shore side that we are getting, and how it was explained to me when I turned in the application is that this would all be documented that way. And just from the letters of people who contested it, I know other people got here, we aren't even looking at purchasing this. The potential purchase is just for the yellow thing. So nothing's gonna happen on the far side of the road. We have zero control over that, but I don't know how that's gonna be written into anything with, because it's that scar that's doing it and I'm the agent. So I don't know how all that's gonna be written in, but we're just purchasing the yellow chunk. Or potentially purchasing it. This is one of the contingencies on there. What was brought up in the town of Edgewater meeting, I have zero control over illegal activities. The ATV traffic on Highway F, which I'm not really aware of, but I can see it happening, is a cut-through road. But I have zero control over that as far as renting ATVs and so on. It would be a very bad business choice because they have no way of getting there legally to do anything like that. Nothing like that's in the plan. The grading, the terrain there is difficult. We're gonna have to work on that, talking things through. I fully understand that is a barrier that needs to be overcame. I believe with the small footprint we're talking about as far as a building, because I mean, there's a lot of cabins that are gonna make this 1,200 maximum square foot building look tiny, and it's gonna be hidden down that slope, and there's flat area down there. I think it's doable. Yes, there might be different variances at some point, but that would need to come about, but I'm hoping we can fit it all in there. And then as far as the impact that people are talking about, or some of the letters and so on, that 3.06 acres could easily become 3 residential lots with 3 driveways, with 3 wells, with 3 septics, with 3 times more impact than what I'm having. The amount of customer traffic that I feel is going to be coming there is going to be, road usage is going to be minimal. The road's going to be used, the driveways, excuse me, is going to be used for an employee getting down there, such as myself or my father, to be there to tend the shop, to help with rentals and so on. And based on the letter, I feel the need, even this year, the number of phone calls that I've already gotten for rental pontoons over on that lake, with the number of resorts that are in the town of Edgewater, you know, being some of the letters say a peaceful, quiet area with the town, with the number of resorts that are already there and everything that's going on, which was again stated in the township meeting. The need's there for something on the water, I feel.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Mr. Rourke?
Yep.
Go ahead, sir.
O'Rourke, yeah.
O'Rourke, okay, sorry. So you plan to put this building then on the lake side of Highway F?
I have zero control over the other
Is that
side
correct, Jake?
because,
Yes.
yeah.
Okay, and then do you expect to have water access, I mean, for some of your customers, for your pontoon rental?
100%, yeah.
100%. And you're aware of any setbacks that would be from the shoreline back for this building, or?
Yeah, and that's where we still have to conduct an on-site inspection. I can go through that a little bit
Okay.
more. So there is a kind of a flat plateau that exists in this property. Let me see if I can zoom it in even more. So this is towards the north side of the property. There's kind of 2 locations that we'll probably end up looking at. The setback distance from the ordinary high water mark would be a 75-foot setback. That 75 line puts me about halfway into where this flat plateau was, which I believe was an old railroad bed once upon a time. So, to put this building in, obviously I think we're going to, have to start right at the 75 line, and a portion of the building is going to be basically dug into the backside of the hill. That you'll have to pour, a full wall there, and it almost meet grade as you're coming down with the back wall, partially covered by that back of the hillside. Also on the south, that middle of this plateau is about at the 75. So there are some topography challenges there. We haven't done an on-site yet because I'm not traversing down this hill with the 2 feet of snow that we probably still have out there. But within the next few weeks to a month, we'll have some boots on the ground and try to lay something out. But it's still some concerns, topography, erosion. That is why, with any type of potential approval, I had recommended in my conditions that we would have engineered design plans for this one.
Thank you. All right, thanks, sir. Is there anybody out there would like to speak in favor of this CUP? Is there anyone out there would like to speak in opposition of this CUP?
I have Linda Zilmer. You want me to read yours or you got it? Okay.
Linda
3
Zilmer, and I
minutes,
know
Linda.
too. Holly Hill Lane, Virtual, Wisconsin, Edgewater property owner. I was on the Edgewater Plan Committee in 2004 and 5 to draft the Edgewater Comprehensive Plan and was the first Plan Commission chair and a Plan Commissioner. So I know very much how the town's plan was developed. And I'm going to give you specifics about it. And it's not just checking off something on a findings of fact sheet. So for instance, in your previous matter, there was no discussion of the town's comprehensive plan. There was just a finding, and I think somebody might challenge that. So I want to make sure the committee understands a lot of problems with this application. First of all, with regard to the town's approval, it was a Zoom meeting. It was held on February 8th of 2022. And the county's notice did not even get published till February 16th. So there was little awareness of what was being proposed and no ability to get the information such as you're seeing now. When the chairman opened up the Zoom meeting, there were some problems with connections, but also he would not allow any public comment for that. The town chair, I think, pretty much had made up his mind ahead of time. There was one town board member who didn't even want to vote because she felt that there was not enough information presented. So there was a vote, but it was kind of it was a nightmare. Jake can maybe expound on that because I'm limited to my minutes. First of all, the town of Edgewater plan in both text and in maps showed this area as an area of concern because of the highly sloped area and erosion. The DNR has spent a few $100,000 on water quality on Lake Chautauqua, and where things are now after the study and the proposals to help water quality is to prevent erosion and phosphorus from getting into the lake by shoreline practices. So something like this from the DNR and the lake planning aspect and the town's comprehensive plan, it's all inconsistent. Also, the underlying zone or the underlying future land use map area was left as forestry residential, which was low density, again, both to keep the natural and rural area the same, and also to help protect the water bodies. The Scar family has been, as you can see now that it's all one parcel, but Scar family has been selling off these lakeshore lots as residential, which are some of the letters you heard. And you can see even for residential, certain parcels have had to go across County Highway F to get sufficient, I don't know if that's for septic fields or whatever. So one thing I've not heard discussed here are septics. Also for with the county not having a definition for marina in its zoning ordinance, it leaves it more open to commercial, which is also something.
Okay, Linda, I'll finish it up.
And the town of Edgewater comprehensive plan does not show this area as commercial because it was developing residential, and the commercial area for Edgewater is down on Highway 48 adjacent to the Washburn County line. And my written findings of fact is pretty much this is inconsistent with the plan. It is a water quality issue. There's topography issues. It would be significantly impacting the neighbors' enjoyment of their property due to the commercial coming and going, and also detrimental possibly to the property values. So again, not at all consistent with the town's plan, and please discount the town's opinion because it was held without information and they did not allow public comment.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else out there want to speak in opposition? Any hands up, Mike? No. Okay, if no more, then I need a motion to come out of public hearing on CUP number 22-005.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion by Ms. Hessel and a second by, was it Mr. Paulson? To come out of a public hearing on CUP number 22-005. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. We are now out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action, the town of Edgewater conditional use permit number 22-005, owner Beverly Scar, agent Joshua O'Rourke. Legal description is previously read into record. Purpose of the request is to have an approximately 1,000 square foot commercial building for recreational sales and marina as per section 17.2, parent B, parent 3. This request would be only for the land east of County Highway F between the road and Lake Chautauqua of approximately 3.06 acres. As per the staff report, again, the conditions would be that the main building not exceed 1,200 square feet. Business hours to be conducted between 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. with the majority being in the summer, depending on daylight. That an engineered approved plan be required for driveway installation and building location as it relates to erosion and grading of the property. That Sawyer County Highway approval be required for the driveway permit for access on the County Highway F. That all signage meet Sawyer County zoning ordinance requirements per the zone district, and that all other town, county, state, and federal laws, including DNR potential approvals for any type of additional docks, piers, or wharfs that are outside of the pier plan or guidelines.
Okay. Me?
I have some questions for Jay.
Go ahead, Mr. Paulson.
Comprehensive plan,
Mhm.
this is consistent with comprehensive plan?
So the town comprehensive plan is, the town of Edgewaters is a little unique. Edgewater and Stone Lake don't really break out their future land use designations as kind of other towns do. They show this area as shoreline. They basically do an overlay of everything within 1,000 feet of a lake is designated as shoreline, and that everything within 300 feet of a river or stream is designated shoreline. I believe in, it would be the same. Let me see if I can actually get, I might have it in a different staff report as to what their future land use of shoreline is. I think it would be in Reyes because it's the same as Sand Lakes.
First, did you mean the county's comprehensive plan?
The county would have adopted the towns. They would have incorporated the towns into the counties. So again, it is the same as Sand Lakes, that the future land use maps for is designated in shoreline, which indicates a 1,000 foot buffering around water bodies. It basically references the old lakes classification system still, which has been obsolete for several years.
Right.
And I mean, I can grab the book, but I don't think they have a true, I'm sure they have a definition of shoreline. I just don't have it. I can grab it though, if that is of a concern for you.
Mr. Sorson, you got any comment?
It's zoned RR1 though, but they designate on their comprehensive plan as future shoreline.
Without definition.
I'm sure there's some vague definition of shoreline
Yeah,
that they have included in there.
The kicker is when you look at comprehensive plans, you have to look at what the zoning is and what the projected zoning is. And if the zoning is consistent, in other words, if it's permitted use within the zoning, which is the RR1 district and the F1 district.
Correct.
You know, if that's a permitted use, then it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, even though the comprehensive plan may have language in it about we'd rather see this, we'd rather see that. When you get to the minutia of the comprehensive plan, it has to fit the zoning category. So if you've created a category and this is a permitted use or a conditional use within that category, then it's meeting the comprehensive plan. It's when you rezone, that's when you talk about, does this meet the comprehensive plan? We're going to probably talk about that in a minute, but you know, the reality is this case shouldn't really raise a comprehensive plan issue. It may raise the issue of what you believe, because it's conditional use, what's the best use of the property? Because the highest and best use is what you always strive for in any kind of planning. And that certainly is a criterion you can use, but I don't see that under the comprehensive plan language, there's nothing here that's sufficient enough to bounce it, so to speak.
Good, perfect. That's where I was heading. My other questions, Jay, there was a comment about lighting and lumens.
Mm-hmm.
Can we quantify that to put that in as a condition?
So I'm not familiar with the town of Edgewater's ordinances. That's what this ultimately pertained to. Or we don't have anything countywide. Now, if, you know, that is something that we want to look into, I did list that one of the conditions follow all other town, county, state, federal laws. If the town has a law for lighting and a lumen maximum, you know, with any approval of the conditions, that would be automatically in there. If other residential lots are held to a lumen standard, then this one would also be held to a lumen standard. And again, I don't know what those are.
My last question is, the hours of operation. Can you read that? Your suggested conditions?
Yeah, and I did speak with the applicant with this, that business hours would be conducted between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. with the majority of that occurring within the summer, depending on daylight hours. With conversations with the applicant, he most likely was not going to be there at 6 a.m. every day. It was probably going to be more like 7. I said, well, if you get there at 6:30, why don't we just put in 6 a.m. for those potential conditions? Also, he's not going to be open during the winter.
Right, so you had primary summer hours. Should we tighten that up a little bit?
If you so choose, right now it would read that, you know, business hours would be conducted between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. flat. I just put in there that the majority of those business hours are going to be during the summer.
Okay.
If you want to, if you want to tighten those hours, we could list that as a condition.
The hours are good. What I'm fussing with is primarily during the summer. That's kind of squishy. If we're going to have something, we should just, you know, maybe just delete that.
Yeah, we certainly can. Again, that was more so, that wouldn't be as part of the main condition. I mean, the 6 to 9 would be the condition. That was just to describe to the committee that 6 to 9 is primarily going to be just in the summer.
Right.
Now, again, he probably would have, you know, customers up until October, maybe even November.
Right.
He'll probably have people maybe in April if we get an early melt. But again, it didn't sound like in conversations with the applicant that he was going to be open this time of year to rent out pontoons, because there's still 2.5 feet ice out there.
Use it as a platform.
Mr. Schuman, you had something you want to say?
Well, yeah, a couple things. Access off Highway F.
Mhm.
I guess I know we need to get safe. There's no turn lane, I would guess, correct there?
Nope.
And I can't picture this on Highway F if you've got, you know, good vision coming up to the driveway that might be placed there.
Yeah, and I believe the applicant had been in discussion with Brad Bizey at the County Highway Department. Brad Bizey is also the individual that would give out driveway permits on county highways. To me, what makes the most sense is to have the driveway located, and I got it up on the screen here, towards the north side of the property, and have that driveway come in and actually kind of start paralleling the highway for a while before it would end up kind of side cutting the slope, and maybe even another switchback on the slope. So that once you get to the top, you're not going to get to the top and go straight onto the highway. You're going to get to the top, parallel the highway for a while, and then turn onto the highway. That way you can at least try to get some visual down it. I ultimately don't deal with driveway permits. I leave that to the towns and the county highway department, those that are more informed on those decisions.
And then obviously the town considered that, the driveway issue that they're.
Yeah, and they ended up defaulting it to the county as well, specifically the county highway department for the access onto Highway F. Now the driveway traversing down the slope, and we're talking a 70-foot drop from the top of Highway F to the flat plateau where the building would be located. That's where I would want to see an engineered design plan to eliminate erosion and kind of grading aspects along that pretty steep slope. I don't know if I've seen a driveway on that steep of slope, so that's where I said that we're not going to handle this. I want someone that's way more well qualified to look into how that's going to traverse down that hill. I'm assuming it's going to have some, you know, some switchbacks or some curving just to try to alleviate that slope.
But what concerns me also, Jay, is you haven't been there, right? You don't want to go there with all the snow here.
Right.
So
I've driven by this thing
Driven
50
by.
times in my life. I just know it's pretty steep.
you should know that DNR is gonna have to approve the moving of soils within 1,000 feet of the, so there's gonna be a DNR permit, because there's no way you could build on this without moving a lot of soil, so the DNR will get involved in that.
The DNR would only get involved if it's over an acre,
Isn't it 3 acres?
over an acre of grading. Otherwise, they push that back onto the counties.
Boy, it's gonna be tough.
Yep.
I just think that's something else to keep in mind. And that goes to the issue of water purity and
Ms. Zomer, I already give you, we're not in the public hearing.
Oh, I thought we were still in public.
No, we're out of public hearing. Sorry. Dawn, do you have anything you want to say?
No, sir, just listening.
Okay. All right, committee.
Another question for Jay.
Oh, sure.
A note there mentions a decrease in property values. Did they provide any evidence that there would be decrease in property values? Okay.
Not that I remember reading. I think most property owners would say that a move to a commercialized property will result in a negative impact to property values. It's not being rezoned to commercial, but it does fall under, the provisions listed within that zone district under authorized by conditional use for a recreational service oriented use, such as a restaurant, cocktail lounge, marinas. There was a good point brought up by an individual before, is that we do not have a definition of marina in our zoning ordinance. I would default to Webster's dictionary definition of a marina, and that would be, sale of boating equipment and boated related items. I think everyone kind of knows what a marina would be. I mean, you drive by, Round Lake Marina, they have a storefront that has, minor boat repairs. They don't sell bait there, but they're the hub to then rent out boats. It's a hub for other employees to do dock services. That's kind of how I would envision a marina, but yes, we do not have a definition of it.
But so my understanding, conditional use permits, I mean, we have to go by facts rather than people's opinions.
Substantial evidence, correct.
Okay. All right.
I'll see if there was any others here, if anyone else has questions before I.
Any more questions?
Now, I mean, multiple opinion letters, talk about that it would decrease their property values, but I don't see any that give any additional testimony as to how that would decrease, just that a commercial building nearby would decrease property values.
Mr. Schuman.
Jay, would this CUP, if it were approved, would it allow a septic system? And
I would
don't know if
think
asked
that,
this, so
yeah,
it would be
ultimately, with that plateau of where it is, to have a conventional sewer system, you would have to have in situ soil, which is soil that's naturally in place. That plateau is an old railroad bed, so you're not going to be able to get a conventional system in there. Lake Chetek in its own is very hit and miss on whether or not you'd even be able to get a conventional, but we are a system of choice in Sawyer County. You can always install a holding tank. That might be what the property owner is limited to, but that is something that would easily fit on this property. You can easily put a holding tank within that plateau. So you would have proper sanitation requirements met.
Hey, Mr. Paulson.
But I mean, that's covered, would be covered under your conditions and complies with all county and.
Yeah, you're going to have sanitation in place, and yeah, if you're going to do any type of, bait sale, and I don't know if mineral water is considered high strength, it might be. So all waste of that marina may have to go to a holding tank anyways. I mean, again, my main concerns is traversing that hill, that if you have a holding tank, it's getting a pumper truck down there to pump it out when it's full and getting it back up. So, that is where I'm wanting to see engineered design plans to, how is this going to be accomplished to get a driveway down, 70-foot drop hill over maybe about a 150-foot run. So it's steep. You're looking at about a 40% slope.
Just for your benefit, Wisconsin statutes define marina under 77.9.43 as property used for the storage, repair, or mooring of boats, whether on land or in water.
And we could rely on that.
Yes, you can rely on state statute, yes.
So there's no other ancillary commercial activities.
Yeah, he did discuss having, potential pavilion. I believe he also, looked at potentially selling ice cream at some point down the road. That was described in basically what I'd call his business plan, which he submitted. But for, additional, shed storage or boat storage, or, if he decides to open up a restaurant or, those other types of uses, he would have to come back in and receive an additional conditional use permit for those types of uses.
All right, what's the pleasure, committee?
There's just a lot of contingencies here that would have to happen. I'm concerned about, if they're gonna be doing repairs, and oil changes, and things like that, so close to the shoreline. With some erosion. Definitely gotta be resolved, but go ahead, Mr. Paulson.
Go ahead, Mr. Paulson.
Jay, have we approved conditional use permits with these big issues like satisfactory engineered grading and things like that?
I don't think we've ever included engineered design plans as a condition. We've gotten very creative with conditions in the past, but I don't think we've ever implemented engineered design plans as one of those conditions. I think with this site and with this topography, it would merit that condition.
Right. I mean, I agree with your assessment. I'm just trying to get a kind of a principal issue here or precedent issue.
Right.
The other thing you could do is you can adjourn your decision until you have further information. If that's what the pleasure is, you do have that right.
Right. I mean, that's really kind of where I was heading is once we got that engineering study done, I mean, we could be assured that it's going to work, it's going to be proper, or it's not going to.
That was one of the questions I was brought up and about permits and all that, so that's why I was wondering, should we be listening to this now or wait till they get everything that they need?
Well, you've already heard it. So you
Right.
got to, if you're going to act, you're going to have to say no or yes,
Right.
or you can adjourn your decision to another date, but you're going to have to eventually make a yes or
Right.
no.
I mean, well, that's where I'm leaning is the third option is just to adjourn the decision until we see more specifics about,
Is that a motion?
pardon me,
Are you making a motion?
I'm getting there.
And yeah, I mean, it's somewhat of a cart and horse scenario that,
It is, I understand.
if you adjourn your decision and then the applicant does provide an engineered design plan and say, yes, it'll work, then why did we adjourn the decision? Or you make it a condition, and if they can't get it, well, then the CUP is denied because the applicant didn't meet the conditions as set forth. So it is a cart and horse, but I understand the concerns of it, and that's
He's going to spend the money anyway.
right.
Okay, so that would be my motion then, is to adjourn the decision pending satisfactory receipt of the grading or whatever, however you want to structure that.
What you're really adjourning to, you'll have further information. One of the pieces of information you want is the engineering plan.
That's correct.
Because Jay is exactly right. If you're going to make conditioned on that, then you should pass it on that condition. If you're just seeking more information before you can make up your mind, otherwise you got Jay to make up your mind because you said okay as long as that passes. So I mean,
I know, I'm uncomfortable with it. I would like more information.
And I would second that motion.
So then
That we adjourn the decision.
to clarify, so adjourn decision until additional information is received in the form of an engineered design plan for driveway and grading aspects of the building.
Right, no, I guess I'll also add the driveway permit.
Okay.
Yeah, anything you want additional, you should tell
Right,
in your motion.
right. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? If not,
No, I agree with you guys. I agree.
The applicants have some questions. I don't know if you want to entertain it or not, but it's up to you.
So
I'm the applicant. Yeah, you can come up and speak.
Should like clarification.
I would like clarification of your motion.
okay.
Do I need to say my name again?
Yes.
Yes.
Joshua Rourke, N1283, County Highway MD in Sterling, Wisconsin. My questioner to your guys' point, I don't know how it's gonna work, but if the conditional use is set, that stuff has to be fulfilled. My concern is, we don't own the property yet. It's already been pushed back from the February meeting to this, extensions on the potential purchase with this being the conditional use is part of the purchase thing. And me not owning the property yet is gonna only throw more kinks into trying to hire somebody to come out to somebody else's property to do this, to do that. Whereas if it's just put into the effect of the engineering thing will be fulfilled before any, you know, the wording I'm trying to say, I believe, is what you're trying to explain to them. I feel, and again, I'm not saying I'm not gonna do the work to try and fulfill the stuff, but I just see a major headache going to a construction firm, an excavating firm, a site engineer, trying to get all this done without the owner surveying the property yet, doing this, doing that to get everything taken care of, where it can all be, I believe, put into the same wording and fulfill the concern. That's hoping you can.
I understand where you're coming from, and I think the committee understands that as well. It's their motion to make, and
Well, yeah, I'm just explaining to you about how that, because it's gonna create, yeah, a lot more headaches. And again, the other option is, yeah, if we purchase the property and can't go forward with this, there could easily be 3 residential houses there next year, 2 for sure. So there's stuff to think about that way as far as the overall impact upon the property and what's gonna be happening versus 1,000 square foot thing with 1 driveway going down there with 1 well and septic, which does all.
You're getting into argument now. You're not answering questions, so that's not appropriate. I'm sorry.
I apologize. I was just explaining it so they had a fair decision.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay,
so we have a motion and a second, and the motion was, what do you have written down?
I have items that more information on the property with needing engineering plan and more on the driveway.
So it'd be, yeah, that the motion was to adjourn
I got
until
that, to
additional
adjourn.
information was received in the form of an engineered design plan for driveway and grading aspects of the building.
Yep.
And also that a driveway permit from the county highway department be issued.
I mean, I'd be okay if they would just say they will issue it. It doesn't, for me, it doesn't have to be issued.
Okay,
So an opinion on permit, is what you're saying.
Okay.
okay. So that was the initial motion, was seconded by Tweed.
So we have a motion and a second
Yep.
on the floor to adjourn.
Yes.
22-005 until whatever you got in there.
Additional info was received. Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
So Kathy, let's do a roll call on that, please.
Stacy Hessel,
Yes.
Ron Buckholz,
Yes.
Bruce Paulson,
Yes.
Dawn Pettit,
No.
Tweed Schuman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Right. Next, we have conditional use permit number 22-008, owner Delta 23 Outfitters LLC, Town of Round Lake. This is also another owner withdrawn application, so I will need a motion to approve the withdrawal.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Mr. Schuman, a second by Mr. Paulson to withdraw CUP number 22-008. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
Chairman,
Yes,
can I request a bathroom break before we?
yes,
get into the next
let's,
one? Okay.
let's do it, Ted.
10-minute recess.
Now back. Okay, Jay.
Before we open up the public hearing, I guess I want to speak with legal counsel as to, well, and the committee, as to how you want to hear these. So we ultimately have a rezone in the town of Bass Lake, and then a conditional use permit in the town of Bass Lake, a rezone in the town of Hayward, and a conditional use permit in the town of Hayward. I don't know if it's more simplistic to hear them in, you know, a block chunk, because ultimately, I'm assuming all the committee members are familiar with what's being requested.
Right.
No,
Well, no, I am, but I guess I'd just like it.
Because you are the county
Right,
and not the town,
right,
you have jurisdiction over both parcels.
right.
So if you determine you want to do both parcels at once, you certainly have that right.
But I just wanted the statement on
Yeah.
what the issue is. Just a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, well, the cases we have in front of us is for a larger rezone request from agricultural 1 to residential recreational 2. Those requests are again across multiple towns. With the potential granting of a rezone, we would then hear a conditional use permit for the location and operation of a 197 unit campground.
I personally would like to hear it in total, make a decision on it.
Yeah.
That's permissible, is it not?
Because you're the county and because there is nothing in the materials that would separate the issues, it's not, if you do A, then B, it's, I want to do this project and the project crosses and you're the county, you have jurisdiction over it all. So it makes a whole lot more sense to do the rezone and then the conditional use permit. It makes no sense to do the conditional use permit if you don't approve the zone.
Right.
So
So what I'd be kind of requesting is to hear rezone 22-003 and 22-004 in concession. And then if approval or even, I guess, recommendation for denial is granted, we would then hear the conditional use permits for those subsequent rezones. Because right now, the way I have it is rezone cup, rezone cup.
Right.
And what I'm proposing is we do rezone together, cup together.
Right.
I would agree.
I like that idea.
But
You need a
most,
motion or not? Sure.
most of our questions are gonna be because of the conditional use permit.
From what I've received in responses, correct. I'm sure there are some arguments to make a part of the rezone though as well. So that's why, again, we would hold the rezones together, vote on the rezones together, and then hear the cups.
Right, and if we deny the CUP, we can also deny the rezone.
You would hear the rezone first, and again, your rezone, whatever motion you make, would be a recommendation to county board.
Right, but then we can change our mind after if we disallow the conditional use permit.
the thing you really want to take is if you rezone the property, you don't have to grant the conditional use permit.
Right.
And the property can be rezoned to be used as an R2 district, just not with this project, okay?
Right, well, what I'm trying to figure out is, can we rezone it? We don't do the conditional use permit and go back and say, nah, we want to leave the zoning back the way it was.
Only the county board could do that after you approved the rezone.
Right,
So I think,
So the county board would get a kick at it.
right,
And obviously, if you deny the conditional use permit, the county board may, but you already rezoned it,
right.
or you already recommended
Recommended.
rezone.
Right, so that was my issue.
because even if this zoning committee made a recommendation for denial of a rezone, you would still want to hear the conditional use permit, because county board could certainly overturn the
Overturn it.
recommendation of a
Right.
denial.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I mean, my comments are not only for clarification. I don't really have an opinion on this matter until I hear the evidence.
correct.
Well,
But his concern was just
No, I
functioning.
understand his concern.
Right, but that's the only thing you have to focus on is what he's proposing. You're hypotheticalizing, if that's a word. You're being hypothetical.
well, I just like I want to hear this rezone discuss this rezone and then go down and do the CUP on that.
Broken out per
Correct.
town though? Or-
No, towns together, is that correct?
No,
But it would save time because you can't. do
I know
one
it saves time.
Because you're not gonna say, you're not gonna deny one township and then approve the other township request, so
All
why
right,
wouldn't you not
all right,
put them together?
Okay, all right, let's do it that way. Okay, that's fine.
But you need a motion.
Chairman or Jay, would, you ask the owner if that's okay, or is that our decision? Mr.
It's
Swanson?
your decision. It's your committee.
Okay, we need a motion to do that then.
I'll make a motion to include both townships in the rezone and both townships in the CUP.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Heslin, second by Mr. Schuman to include both rezones.
All right, so I will go through and give my staff reports to both of them in kind of a conjunction fashion.
Do we need to vote on that?
We should probably vote.
The
Oh,
motion-
we will, we're still,
Okay, sorry.
all right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
All right, this is a public hearing in the town of Bass Lake, rezone number 22-003. This is also a public hearing in the town of Hayward, rezone number 22-004. The town of Bass Lake is the north one half of section 4, part lot 1 of CSM 16/41, section 4, township 40 north, range 9 west, parcel 0029400422108. It's 73.18 total acres. Purpose of the request is to rezone all agricultural 1 upland, excepting the commercial 1 area of 5.5 acres and the shoreline wetland area of approximately 1.5 acres, leaving approximately 66.18 acres to be rezoned to residential recreational 2. Purpose of the rezone request to RR2 is then to apply for a conditional use permit for a 197 site RV park. All sites are southeast of Spring Creek, leaving a buffer of the existing golf course holes around the perimeter of the property. The C1 portions are excluded from this request and would include the existing lodge area. This request is split between the town of Bass Lake and the town of Hayward, and we would be hearing 2 separate conditional use permits, which will be held together simultaneously after this. For rezone 22-003 in the town of Bass Lake, the applicant is requesting zone district change from agricultural 1 to RR2. The purpose again is to apply for 197 site RV campground. The actual parameters of the campground will be further discussed within the CUP request. The property consists of the old Hayward National Golf Course. The golf course has been out of operation for approximately 9 years. Majority of the existing trees on the property have already been removed, and the likelihood of this being converted back to a full golf course would be very difficult, in that the greens and fairways have been left go to seed. In order for a golf course operation to occur here again, it would need to be entirely reconstructed. The nearest RR2 zone property in relation to this is a 17.36 acre parcel immediately adjacent to the southwest of this parcel. There are only a few other smaller parcels on the corner of Fun Valley Road and State Highway 27 that are zoned RR2. Even though this property is currently zoned agricultural 1, according to the NRCS web soil survey, the soils listed in this area would not be included as part of prime farmland or farmland of statewide importance. NRCS further lists these soils as having very severe limitations that reduces the choices of plants or that require very careful management, or both. The town of Bass Lake shows this area as generalized existing parks and recreation as part of their town's comprehensive plan, with a future land use category described as park and recreation. Per the town of Bass Lake comprehensive plan, existing land use under parks and recreation lands under privately owned may include golf courses, campgrounds, marinas, shooting ranges, etc. The existing surrounding use outside of the area is woodlands and medium density residential. If the rezone 22-003 is approved, the conditional use permit application will be heard next. The Sawyer County Zoning Committee must follow all applicable state statutes when deciding a conditional use permit. We'll get into that further. Let me read the town opinion letters. And before I go further, has the committee had a chance to read all the opinion letters that were sent out
Yes.
so that those are incorporated into the record? Okay.
Should I just ask
Go
a
ahead.
question even though?
Yep.
Jay, are you gonna read the town's finding of facts?
Yes, I will read the town's letters.
Okay, no, the town fast.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is again the rezone for the town of Bass Lake. Action was approved. Justin Hall, chairman, Marshall Subitsky, supervisor, Dave Albrecht, supervisor, Bob Hammond, supervisor, Don Adams, supervisor. This is the decision again for the town of Bass Lake Planning Committee from Agricultural 1 to RR2 with the findings of facts that the rezone is to be consistent with the town of Bass Lake comprehensive plan described as land use section 8.4 of Parks and Recreation. Recreation lands under public and private ownership. Publicly owned recreational lands may include town park, nature preserves, or athletic fields, boat landings, campgrounds, etc. Example of privately owned lands may include golf courses, campgrounds, marinas, shooting ranges, etc. Prior uses of public golf course and proposed use as a campground. Number 2, the rezone would be consistent with the town of Bass Lake's comprehensive plan existing land use map 8.1. The existing use of the property is park and recreation. Prior use is a public golf course and proposed use as a campground. The district also provides for residential development in addition to recreational oriented services, which also would not be contrary to public interest if a campground is not developed. The rezone would be consistent with the town of Bass Lake comprehensive plan future land use map 8.4. The existing use of the property is park and recreation. Prior use is a public golf course and proposed use as a campground. The district also provides for residential development in addition to recreational service oriented uses, which would not be contrary to the public interest if the campground is not developed. The rezone would be consistent with the town of, number 4, the town of Bass Lake's comprehensive plan economic development section 6.8, tourism impact to the local economy. Sawyer County is impacted greatly by the number of visitors to the county. These visitors include persons traveling through the county or staying in second seasonal homes. In 2013, it was estimated that 78.4 million was expended in the county by travelers. The net result of these expenditures is the realization that numerous jobs were created to support the traveling public. A campground is an area designated as park and recreation, would be consistent with section 6.8. Conclusion of law. The establishment, maintenance, or operation of the rezone will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, comfort, or welfare because it would not be damaging to the rights of others or property values as it has existing public recreation use of the property. The district also provides for residential development in addition to recreational or oriented services, which would not be detrimental to or endanger public health, safety, comfort, or welfare if the campground is not developed. Number 2, the uses, values, and enjoyment of other property in the neighborhood for the purpose already permitted shall not be in nor foreseeable manner substantially impaired or diminished by establishment, maintenance, or operation of the rezone as it has existing public recreation use of property and surrounding area has multiple zone districts, including commercial 1, rural recreational 2, forestry 1, and agricultural 1. The district also provides for residential development in addition to recreational service oriented uses, which are not to be contrary to values and enjoyment of other properties in the neighborhood if the campground is not developed. Number 3, the establishment of the rezone will not impede the normal or orderly development of improvement of the surrounding property for uses permitted in the zone district as it has existing public recreation use of the property and surrounding areas has multiple zone districts, including C1, RR2, F1, and AG1. Number 4, the rezone will conform to applicable regulations of the district in which it is located. It would not destroy prime agricultural land. It would be compatible with the surrounding uses of the area and has existing public recreation use of the property and surrounding area has multiple zone districts of C1, RR2, F1, and A1. Number 5, the adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so as designated as to minimize traffic congestion on public roads because it would not create a traffic or highway access problem since the existing public use as a golf course entering the Fun Valley has been utilized for numerous years. This was signed by the chair of the Town of Bass Lake Planning Committee on February 3rd, signed Bon Sutton. That is the Town of Bass Lake. You said you did have a chance to read other opinion letters that are incorporated into the record, but will not be read out loud here today. This is then in conjunction, a public hearing for rezone number 22-004, applicant Pinewood Properties LLC. This is the Town of Hayward, part of the northeast 1/4, the southeast 1/4, the northwest 1/4, the southeast 1/4, the southwest 1/4, the southeast 1/4, and the southeast 1/4 of the southeast 1/4. Part lot 1 of CSN number 4022, section 33, township 41 north, range 9 west, parcel 010941334107. This is 87.89 total acres zoned agricultural 1. Purpose of the request is to rezone all agricultural 1 upland area, excepting the shoreline wetland area of approximately 35.68 acres, leaving approximately 52.21 acres to be rezoned to residential recreational 2. The purpose then would be to apply for a conditional use permit for a 197 site RV park. Just looking to see if there's any additional information here. Even though this property is zoned agricultural 1, this area is still in the town of Hayward. As part of the NRCS web soil survey, is not included as part of prime farmland or farmland of statewide importance, very severe limitations that reduce the choice of plants. Town of Hayward comprehensive plan from 2018 to 2038 shows the future land use map category as recreational commercial. The primary intent of this classification is to identify areas which provide private recreational activities through a commercial business or fragmentation organization. As mapped, this designation may include hunting, fishing, sports clubs, campgrounds, golf courses, and other recreational facilities. According to the Town of Hayward comprehensive plan, they state that there are presently 3 commercial recreational areas within the town of Hayward. This includes the Big Fish Golf Course, a Hayward Rod and Gun Club, and the Hayward Golf and Tennis Club. The Hayward National Golf Course was not listed in here, but the future land use map shows the highlighted subject rezone property as being indicated for recreational commercial. The following policies shall apply if the recreational commercial RCM, maybe management, RCM developments are proposed. Hunting, shooting, or archery use shall be prohibited from locating within residential areas. The town shall require an amendment to the future land use map for when recreational commercial use is proposed. Application for the development of recreational commercial uses shall be approved as conditional uses under the Sawyer County zoning code. For the Town of Hayward Town Board. Motion was approved. Gary Gedart, Town Chair, Andrea Whitwer, Supervisor, Henry Bearhart, Supervisor. Signed with no additional comments, Bryn Hand, Town Clerk.
So there's no finding of facts.
Not for Town of Haywards that was included with the letter or their fact sheet that they need to submit to us. Again, the committee had a chance to read all of the opinion letters that were sent out to neighboring property owners within 300 feet for that Town of Hayward subject property. Those are therefore incorporated into the record. That is all I have.
Jay, you said Town of Bass Lake approved it?
Yes, both towns
Okay.
approved the rezone request.
All right. I need a motion to go into public hearing on rezone number 22-003 and 22-004.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hessel, second by Mr. Schuman to go into public hearing on rezone number 22-003 and 22-004. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Carried. We are now in public hearing. The applicant here?
Yes. Picture 3.
Seat, and I'm here to present my.
And your address, sir?
Address,
Oh,
please.
yes, 9940 and Wood Creek Lane, Hayward, Wisconsin. I'm here to present my project for the old Hayward National Golf Course. My project is, as mentioned, to turn it into an RV park resort. A little bit about myself. My name's Adam Bodenschatz, and I've been a lifelong resident of the area. My grandparents built Big Muskie in the 40s, and my family's been in the resort industry one way or another since then. I'm a third generation resort owner. I've spent, like I said, I've been a lifelong resident, lived here most of my life, and I can truly say this is my house, my home. We live in a great piece of the North Woods, surrounded by wildlife and all sorts of recreation and beauty. My goal here in this presentation is to show how my project fits into both townships and the county's comprehensive plans and future use. Project scope overall is the whole project is about 165 acres of abandoned golf course for 8 or 9 years. Looking to rezone R2 to make it conforming for an RV resort with a conditional use for 197 sites. My plan also includes discrete storage of maintenance and operational equipment, conventional county and state approved wastewater treatment systems. In my packet there is also a proposed layout for the new RV sites, recreational areas, general areas for stormwater retention and wastewater treatment. The plan is to have a natural northwoods screening and look throughout the whole property with a focus on rustic designs and landscapes. My project see happening in 3 phases over a span of 3 to 5 years. Phase 1 would include sites 1 through 60. I need to revamp the clubhouse. It's been abandoned for about 9 years, and all engineering and planning for the entire project need to happen before I can even break ground. And then also the pertinent roads and utilities needed for the first phase of construction. Phase 2 would be 61 through 120, additional roads and utilities as needed, along with additional recreational areas set aside for that purpose. And then phase 3, sites 121 through 197, which would be additional utilities and roads as necessary. Some focus points that have come up and we've discussed over the last 4 meetings in both townships would be stormwater runoff, increased traffic and density, noise, ingress and egress traffic, wastewater treatment, management of utilities, clutter control, various environmental concerns, which would be impacts on surface water, groundwater, wildlife, and general use of grounds and surrounding areas. General aesthetics, and also general positives to the community as a whole, which I will explain what I think about general positives here. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, of course you can. Of course, yeah. Yep.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Sorry. Okay, general positives that I see for this project being in our community is there's definitely an increase in, I guess, general revenue that's gonna be brought into the community, whether it's for jobs and or people shopping at all of our retail stores and just overall more money being brought into the area. The project is in line with both township comprehensive plans and future land uses. As far as development is concerned, in my opinion, it's a very low impact development compared to hotels or housing developments, or even commercial and industrial installations. I would be resurrecting a long abandoned recreation area. Drive by there many times throughout the year and I just see nothing happening there. That beautiful clubhouse just going to waste. It's a perfect opportunity to resurrect what was a recreational area and continue it as a recreational area. And then also properly fulfilling a need for more sites in a rapidly emerging vacation trend towards RVing. As far as Sawyer County's comprehensive plan and sightings and how it fits within the comprehensive plan. In 4-12 says tourism and recreation constitute the fastest growing industry in our state. Sawyer County needs to plan for future growth in all recreational funds. 6-5 in caps. Tourism, the backbone of Sawyer County employment. It's responsible for much growth in the county, along with economic impact of lost resort style reservations in the past due to condoing has been felt by many businesses. My project, I believe, would be restoring some of this to our area.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
People, can you hear him in the back?
No.
I didn't think so, because I was trying to see you turn your, can you speak up a little louder, please?
There's not a microphone for me.
No, I know.
That's just the mic for the Zoom.
8-32. County level decisions, or at least should be based on a review of adopted township comprehensive plans. And then 8-33, the desired future land use map from local plans are to be used in countywide comprehensive planning. In conclusion, nowadays we've seen a generational shift in how people vacation. And it's gone towards either the tourist doing housing or tourist housing,
Short-term rentals.
short-term rentals, excuse me, and then RV and camping options that are out there today. Through proper low-impact construction and development techniques, proper management and consistent analysis towards market trends will keep our area ahead of the game for a long time to come and to serve all the guests that come to our area. We all benefit directly and indirectly from the recreational customer that we serve, and to ignore this current and foreseeable future trend in vacationing would be detrimental to the town and our county as a whole, in my opinion. My project location is a premium option for the expansion of our service to the community and the tourist industry, while preserving as much of the natural landscape as possible. Our project will not be disturbing much land at all. We're going to be using as much natural terrain as we can possibly use. This is evidenced by the proper placement of my sites and terrain most suitable for the lowest impact development possible. I do have some attachments in there, such as my proposed layout, future land use maps for both townships, a topography map, and I have had many soil tests done on the property by Butterfield Inc., which show that they are the best soil quality for conventional septic systems. I have hired NWDE engineering firm here in town to do all of my stormwater management, erosion control, site layout, and permitting for the DNR, along with Sawyer County comprehensive plan settings. That's it, and thank you. Questions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna, so Is there anybody out there would like to speak in favor of this rezone? Okay,
I see one hand up for John Cox.
go ahead, Mr. Cox.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee members, for the opportunity to comment on this proposal. My name is John Cox. My address is 12257 South 102nd Avenue in Goodyear, Arizona. My wife and I own a single-family lot on an extension of Jenny Lane, adjacent to the proposal, and we are opposed.
We're still
We're
in,
still in-
we're still in favor right now.
Try to see if I could get it.
I'm retired after 40 years in city management and planning. And I'm also a owner of a park model in a campground in Minnesota. It's not, however, located next to single-family homes. I trust you reviewed my comments in your packet and read into the record, so I'll just briefly highlight those. First, campgrounds are not compatible with single-family homes. Campgrounds are wonderful, but campgrounds are lived outdoors. They are places for recreation, fun, and active lifestyles, and they can be loud, especially at night. With 197 campsites, it's easy to imagine 30 to 40 campfires on a clear Saturday night with friends and family enjoying the outdoors. It's been our experience in our campground that even in the best run campgrounds, bad behavior occurs with the flow of libations and with sometimes resulting in yelling and fighting. Now, in this particular case, 2/3 of the campground, it is my understanding, are located by single-family homes. Second, I want to bring to your attention the findings of fact regarding the rezoning. There are several that are met for denial. One is the use is not compatible with adjacent uses, which I have previously stated. I would, in terms of objectionable view, which can be very subjective, I would just ask you, the committee members, whether you would want this located 100 feet from your backyard. And then finally, in terms of value, I have, because my wife and I are now considering selling our single family lot, I have approached 3 realtors within the Hayward community and asked them what they thought of the value of our lot. All 3 felt that our property values were significantly adversely impacted by the closing of the golf course and the mining of the trees. But all 3 also indicated that our property value would be further decreased with the introduction of a 197 unit campground located right in our backyard. In terms of the submitted plans for the 88 acre, 197 unit campground, they are vague and changing. My understanding is that the proposed buffer around the campground is no longer valid. My concerns also are regarding the plans. There are no detailed plans. There's no information on grades, no information on wastewater, water, roads, stormwater, trash management, or landscaping. There is also no background on the owner, their experiences, comments from others on their operations in other cities. So I'm concerned about the vetting that has taken place. I'm not sure how you can adequately evaluate a proposal of this magnitude with the limited information that you have. In my comments that I had shared with the committee, I also stated a number of questions regarding the operation. Will decks be allowed? Will accessory buildings be allowed? How will parking be handled?
Excuse me, sir, you want to finish up? Your 3 minutes is just about done right now.
Yes, sir. I will just finally close up by indicating that if you are so inclined to recommend in favor of this proposal, I would ask first that you get detailed plans of the development. I would also ask that you require a minimum setback of 300 feet to the single family homes, and also to take a look at the density of the campsites near Jenny Lane. So I will conclude my comments and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, is there anybody out there that wants to speak in favor of this rezone? No hands up, Mike? No other hands. Okay. All right. So I take it you all are here for the opposition. So Jay, you want to start them up?
May I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Will we get to speak on both the rezoning and the conditional use permit, or is it all together?
No, it's two separate public
No.
hearings at this point. Right now, we're hearing the rezone.
Okay.
You'll
thank
get
you.
to speak at the CUP.
Thank you.
And with the public participation slips, I mean, they don't say specifically on whether or not you're speaking on the rezone or on the conditional use permit. I'll start calling the names that I have, but just keep in mind that we are hearing the rezone petition right now, not unique, implications of the campground itself, but the rezoning of the land from agricultural 1 to residential recreational 2.
Mr. Schulman, I'll take that sign down.
First name I have is a Greg Waterhouse.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Oh,
Okay.
He doesn't want to speak, right?
You don't want to speak? Okay. Again, just keep in mind, we are hearing the rezone application. Okay, thank you.
State your name and your address, sir.
Greg Waterhouse, 9880 North Fairway Drive, Hayward. Office.
You have 3 minutes.
That would be quicker than that. I have seen the proposed plans for the RV park, mostly in Bass Lake. I have not seen any mention of what the developer plans on doing with the 30+ acres northwest of Spring Creek, mostly in the town of Hayward, that is not wetland. Who's to say the developer would not in the future apply for a permit for, say, maybe a trailer park or some expand the RV park? I find it hard to believe the developer would leave these 30+ acres sitting.
Next I have a Jake Gondik. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did.
Perfect.
All right, my name is Jake Gondik. I'm an attorney here representing many of the single-family homeowners around the Hayward Bass Lake area, specifically around the golf course. My address, I'll give you my
Work address.
My work address, 1215 Belknap Street in Superior, Wisconsin. I'm also involved in this with a colleague of mine, Chris Nelson, who's from Acre, Lammers, and Hudson. Briefly just touching on the issue of the rezoning part of it. You know, it's merely what this boils down to is it's an incompatible use with the surrounding areas. I don't dispute that there's other areas rezoned to 17 acres and so on. However, what you're looking at is you're going from something where it's a golf course and you have daytime activity to maybe a couple hundred people coming through, some carts passing by throughout the day, to people carrying on, potentially partying all night. And ultimately what it comes down to is reducing the homeowners' values of their single family homes in the local area. Specifically talking with, just as Mr. Cox stated, talking with local realtors here, one of the neighbors, Carol LeBrecq, spoke with Gary Nathan when this happened about 2 years ago, and this ultimately got shot down, the idea of an RV park here in the same exact location. Gary Nathan told Carol that if her value of her home at that time would be reduced 20 to 30%, not a minute, nominal value. I mean, we're talking a substantial value, nearly a third of the entire fair market value of her home being reduced. And as Mr. Cox said, we're talking 2/3 roughly of the entire neighborhood is surrounded by these single family homes. So we're looking at more than just, yeah, it's kind of a pain to be able to see an RV park. We're talking a total depreciation on a drastic level, and ultimately people that are losing a substantial amount of equity in their homes because of this. With that being said, I would just like to reserve my time, another 3 minutes for coming back up if the board will approve this to speak on the conditional use permit.
We will allow that, sir.
Thank you.
Yep.
Legal question.
Yeah.
Can they quote?
It's hearsay. I'll tell you about that later.
Yeah, it's hearsay. If you don't have something in writing, it's
Right.
hearsay.
Well, even if you have it in writing, it's hearsay.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. Next I have Guy Houston.
My name is Guy Houston. I live here in Hayward, Wisconsin.
Can we have your address, though, sir?
It's 15873 West Sunshine Acres Lane.
You have 3 minutes.
All right. Adam just spoke about how this property has laid vacant for a number of years and how he is going to beautify the land, and this is going to be wonderful for the area. Why is it that a golf course, if you have a house on a golf course, everyone wants to live there? But if you build a campground, no one wants to live around it. They always say, you know, I don't want these in my backyard. He says he's going to beautify the land. I can't see how 197 RV campers are going to beautify any piece of land. We're here again for the third time. Another business wants to turn the Hayward National Camp Golf Course into a campground. Pinewood LLC knew we didn't want a campground in this area. We had the same discussion last year, but he bought the property and he got a good deal on the land, and now they're going to ram this through the boards to get it rezoned and to get a conditional use permit. There's 50 people that got letters that live within like 300 feet of the property, but there's many people that live 400, 600, 800 feet back that this is going to affect. There's over 150 people. When Hayward in 2018 and Bass Lake in 2015 drew up their comprehensive plans for this lot, they said the property could be a golf course, it could be a campground, it could be a shooting range. But over the years, the area and the demographics have taken a change. Within the last 2 years, 10 single-family dwelling homes have been built around this golf course. Some of these new homes even got letters from zoning say, hey, we're gonna wanna put a campground over here. Would these owners have bought and built these new homes if they knew a campground was being put in? I don't think they would have. How can zoning in good conscience approve single-family dwelling homes to be built around this area and then turn around and say, hey, we're gonna put 500 people in your neighborhood now? If this campground is allowed to go through, you will decrease the value of the property by 20 to 30%. You'll kill off the wildlife in the area. You'll potentially contaminate the wetlands, increase noise levels, increase traffic, increase travels on ATV trails, and Fun Valley Road that runs right across there, that's an ATV trail. And what about campfire smoke? I mean, if there's like 50 campfires going on a still summer night, you can't tell me the whole area there isn't going to be smoky. Campgrounds are for vacationers. They don't care about the land. They don't care about the property. They don't live around here like we do.
Okay, sir, your 3 minutes are up.
Okay. Thank you.
Next I have a Ken Millender.
Yes, sir. My name is Ken Millender. I live on 16023 West Fun Valley Road. Back in the early 80s, I started being a competitive angler. I have traveled fishing, angling, and studied water qualities in 3 different countries, Pacific and Atlantic Ocean, and 23 states. I have seen some states where the water pollution is terrible. Even there's a creek out on Chetek Lake. The septic sewage is so strong you have to hold your breath. So I've been studying the EPA, their studies, their guidelines. Several universities spoke to several. And right there in the projected area between 2 wetlands where the proposed project is going to be, there's one of the strongest aquifers that we have in the area, and that even backed up by Frank Pratt, retired senior fisheries biologist. We've had long conversations about this. So granted, the permeability of the soil is pretty strong. I mean, as far as it's really good, but that also, according to EPA studies done, that is a 44-page document, states that permeability is really subject to clogging. So then all the human decrements get put into the water supply.
And the DNR guidelines within the state and our laws are pretty weak on protecting our water quality. In the last 2 or 3 years, it has been many government agencies, along with support with the people and grants and universities have been studying our water supply. UW-Madison just did one in the southwestern part of the state, and 46% of the 200 and some wells tested had fecal matter contaminants versus half that percentage of cattle and only 9% of swine farms. Now, we talk about jobs and we talk about the demographics of the area bringing people in. If we don't protect our environment and the water quality, the people are going to stop coming. Now, here's one thing to consider. So if you're going to put approximately 1/4 of the population of Hayward in an area that draws the water out of the groundwater right next to one of the most aggressive aquifers we have in that area. So what's going to happen? That's going to create a big depression within the subsurface of the area, and it's going to draw water from all directions and then recycle it back on the surface to go back into normal percolation rate. But here's an issue. I kept this to myself for quite a few years. I am right in the path of this aggressive aquifer. I think it was around 2006, the DNR allowed a company to dump raw septic sewage on a field that feeds both these wetlands and permeates into the soil that goes into a little spring lake that hardly ever freezes and ends up in the Namakogan River. You want to finish up, sir? So if you look at jobs, I took a survey last summer, 85% of the businesses did not have enough employees to sustain the people that were in town. We already have 100+ RV park already approved in an appropriate location due to permeability. It has a big wetlands there to protect the water quality. Otherwise, I would have been there too.
Thank you. Next, we have Kathleen Nath.
Yeah, I have at this time one question. My name is Kathleen Knapp, and I live at 15809W West Jenny Lane. My question is, because we've elected to combine the zoning business, is it possible that Bass Lake may be rezoned, but the town of Hayward would not be rezoned? It's
No.
got to be a 2-for-1 type of thing?
Yeah, as part of the request, I mean, the campground extends into both of them. Without, talking with the applicant, I don't think this would work without it. We'd have to have a serious change of the conditional use permits. If he doesn't get both, then this just kind of falls apart.
Because I do feel I've attended a number of these meetings. My concern is with regard to septic, as the other gentleman has mentioned, air quality, but particularly septic and the well water type of thing. Because as Mr. has provided the map over here and one in the packet, he always uses the phrase possible septic area with no detail. And I do feel that we are entitled to details. If we're talking about 197 campgrounds, I attended a meeting at one time saying, well, we'll put up sheds or something like that. I'm going, well, if this is an RV campground where people are coming in, going out, what are we needing sheds for? I mean, and are there going to be permits for these across this? I do not know. So these are questions that come to my mind. And I'm not using my 3 minutes, so it could be used by someone else.
Thank you, Matt.
Yep. The next I have is Jean Paul.
I'm not a very good talker, so excuse me. My name is Jean-Paul Dujardin. I live at 9747 North Acre Road. We have a property also at 15610 Cadillac Road. I'm a neighbor. like somebody said, about 400 feet from the location, crow flying. I never got a letter about it. It was 8:05 this morning on the way to Bar H that I heard about this meeting. And I called my wife and she said, go to it. So I came. So I don't have much to say about yeah, no, I know nothing. What I wanted to say is, look at options. I'm the president of the soccer field. We live in concentrate things. We have across the KOA, we property, well, own the property, the soccer, the kids on Hayward own the property. I started the soccer 40 years ago. They have been playing there with no electricity, no water, no nothing. To upgrade, it costs 500,000. Asphalt. Asphalt property, look at option, you know, it's in the middle of nowhere, you have no neighborhood, no nothing. That's all I wanted to say, you know, look at all the options and concentrate something, you already have the KOA, you have options, I found the field next to it, I don't know. But I found it, so look at options, you know, don't fight, look at the positive, you know, look for the kids. 300 kids play soccer, they have been playing with nothing, we don't have opportunity, switch. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
You also have to say that if you bring that many people out that come next to it, like cows, bulls and everything, you have a lot of kids on all those campground, they jump the fence. Look at the danger, you know. I plan on farming, my land is farming.
Sir?
forever. So, but-
Yeah, you said you were done anyway. You gotta talk to
Yeah,
the
I'm
committee,
sorry,
not the app.
I don't listen to those things.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
it's very difficult to hear anybody that is talking at the podium. I don't know what's going on with the mic. I have it on full volume. You can barely hear them.
Yeah, that last individual was kind of walking away from the microphone. So hopefully it was just the last individual that you.
No, it's everybody. It's hard to hear everybody. So
we'll try to
something's
get
going
him to
on.
talk louder, Miss Pettit.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So that is all I have from the public hearing slips. It's up to you to see if anyone else here in person would like to speak. And then certainly open it up to those virtually.
Okay, is there anybody out there that hasn't spoke on opposition, would like to speak? Okay, state your name, address.
My name is Gene Roush. I live at 6626 North White Lane, Stone Lake. I have lived up in this area since 1981, so I'm kind of familiar with the area and a few of you. My concern here is that we have property on Jenny Lane that's adjacent to this. And we had bought the property years ago because my mother-in-law was ill and we thought we'd move her up here, and the property's been sitting idle. I think that before we enter into finalizing what needs to be done here, that it might be in our best interest as a group, if you were to allow us to pursue some more information on property values, to see what's going to happen to our property values, to see what's going to happen to the people who live here, who live in that area. I don't know what my future plans are. I have no concept of what's going to happen there. I'm more concerned about everyone who lives there than I am for my own well-being at this stage. I understand Adam's proposal. I understand the idea of bringing in jobs and creating more employment for the area and how important that is to our community. I thrived on the fact that people were here and could move here and live here and have their lives here. I would not have been able to live here without that. But I think that it's important for these people who are residents of this area that they know what they're up against. And they need that, and I think that needs to be dealt with before we allow this to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to speak? Go ahead, ma'am. State your name and address.
You have to come up.
You have to come up to the podium.
I wasn't going to speak, but
That's fine.
I know these kids.
I'm Carol Middlesdorf. I live at 1589 West Sunshine Acres Lane. Yes, I'm nervous. We've lived there since 1975, raised all my 5 children, my 16 grandchildren, and I also have 12 great-grandchildren. So I'm thinking about the heart of our community. We live in such a wonderful place. It's called Fun Valley. A lot of people use our road constantly for walking. We have events on our where John Paul lives. It goes around 5 miles. We have walk runs. We have people roller skating. We have people with their families walking our roads. And we're thinking about an RV park that will be packed with 197 lots with people, at least 2 to each lot or more. And what that's going to make our pleasant Fun Valley not so pleasant. I have nothing against their planning of a RV court, but like John Paul said, it should be somewhere else, not here. We have Spring Lake that has been told that to me that that is one of the purest waters of bodies of water in Wisconsin. If you've ever been to Spring Lake, you realize what a wonderful place it is. I live in a wonderful place, and I feel like this would just take a whole lot away from our area. We have some really great events going on, walk, runs, and that kind of thing too. So it's our feeling is that we've lived there all these years. We enjoy our quiet and peaceful valley with our deer running through it and rabbits and everything, you know, and now with that coming in, we won't have that. That's my piece.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody out there that else would want to speak? State your name and address, 3 minutes.
Joe LeBrecq, 9782 North Fairway Drive. I guess I just want to say my wife and I moved up here just about 10 years ago, maybe a little longer than that. And we left Rochester, Minnesota because it was unlivable in our neighborhood. It had turned to crap. And if you're going to we've spent a lot of time and money improving this home that we bought and turning it into our home. And to put a campground, a circus, in our backyard is ludicrous. It's insane. And I don't understand what's happened. Why was this turned down before? What's different? Why are you going to do it? Why are we even revisiting this again? There's plenty of places you can build a campground, but why are you putting it in a residential area? You're destroying our home. You're destroying our life. I don't understand. I just don't understand it. I've been in RV parks. They're great. When my kids were little, we used to go to the RV parks, but they're noisy and people get drunk, and you tell a person you're done drinking, they don't stop drinking. They carry on and they carry on and they carry on. And I don't want it. We sleep with our windows open. We listen to the frogs, the crickets. We love it. I don't want to listen to loud music and drunks, screaming kids, barking dogs, and the smell of campfires going all summer long. No way. We bought on a golf course for a reason. We wanted quiet. Golf courses are quiet. Campgrounds are noisy. And we don't want any part of it. No way. No way. And my family's been up here since the 30s. My grandfather bought and owned and developed 2 Rounds Resort on Little Round. I don't know if any of you remember that. It then was sold to Ballin. So I grew up in that business with resorts, and I know how it goes. But to say that there's such a thing as a upscale campground, no, there isn't. I've been to lots of them. I've never been to one yet. Never. They're noisy. And, go ahead and do it. If you're going to do it, we're out of here. We're not going to put up with it. No way. It's absolutely insane. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Anyone else want to speak in favor? Huh?
Yeah. If,
Online. Mike?
if you're online and wishing to speak in opposition, can you please raise your hand so I can call you off in that order?
Ellen has a hand up. Ellen?
Yeah,
Could
go
I
ahead,
s-
Ellen.
yeah. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
My
State
name
your
is
and address, ma'am.
Miss Ellen Domask. I live at 16025 West Park Road. And because this is referring to just the zoning part of our meeting, in response to that, when my husband and I bought our home 5 years ago, the first thing I did before we closed on the home, and it was advice given to me from our attorney, check to see what the zoning is, because at that time we knew the golf course was not operational. And because it was agricultural, we felt very well protected that, okay, this should be okay for us. Now, granted, that was 5 years ago, and here we are. It's like, wait a minute. I did not buy 5 years ago with the feeling of, I live in an ag zoned area, to now have it being reconsidered for RR2. We are so opposed to this, but that's all I have to say just on the zoning portion.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
While Ellen is there, this is Roger Domask, and all I wanted to say, my address is the same as Ellen's at 16025 West Park Road. What I wanted to say is that we had sent in letters to Jay, and he had given commitments that they would be read at the meeting, and that's one of the reasons that we Zoomed instead of coming to the meeting today, and we haven't heard those read yet today.
Yeah, and those were distributed to the committee members, and the committee members acknowledged that they received and read all of the opinion letters and responses, and those are therefore incorporated into the record.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, if there's no more, then I need a motion to come out of public hearing on rezone number 22-003 and 22-004.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion by Mr. Schuman and a second by Mr. Paulson to come out of public hearing on rezone number 22-003 and number 22-004. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. We are now out of rezone, excuse me, public hearing.
This is the discussion action, the town of Bass Lake, rezone number 22-003, and discussion action for the town of Hayward, rezone number 22-004. Owner Pinewood Properties LLC, legal description is previously read into record. The purpose of the request is to rezone all agricultural 1 upland, accepting the shoreline wetland areas and accepting the commercial areas. Proposed rezone to residential recreational 2 for the purpose of a 197 unit campground.
That it, Jay?
That's it.
Okay. Committee, Mr.
Yeah,
Schuman.
but Jay, can you confirm the aquifer they're talking about and the spring lake? And
I
we
do
didn't
not
do
have
that.
working knowledge on the aquifer. I'm not a geologist or hydrogeologist.
But there's a significant amount of wetlands, right, all around that property. And
There is, yep.
And those are not being rezoned, so you understand that.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, and there's part of the campground layout. I mean, those do have unique setbacks required from them as far as the location of any designated site or unit. So there are, again, those setbacks applied for it, but as far as, you know, the hydrology or the aquifer, I do not have the knowledge to answer that question.
But just so you understand, though, in order to get a septic permit, they're going to have that knowledge, whoever engineers the septic.
Yeah, as far as the, you know, setback of a vertical separation of a limiting factor. In discussion, or at least from what the applicant said, he had contacted with the Butterfield Inc. He is a certified soil tester, and apparently they had done some soil test work out there. Again, this is as per the applicant had stated, that it did, have a soil morphology test, perk test, that was conducive for conventional systems. And I would assume that it would be 0.7 sands, which is the best loading rate that you could have for soil absorption systems.
But a perk test is not done by a geologist, right?
No. A perk test could be done by just a certified soil tester. And that's just for sewer system installation.
And yeah, I just want the group to remember you're rezoning. So you're going from ag, which could be a pig farm, I mean, it could be a whole lot worse than to residential, just so you keep that in mind.
Right.
Yeah.
And that was my question. If it's considered agriculture, what besides a golf course is the potential of income? I mean, I was just wanting a public reminder of if it is not rezoned, what is the capabilities of this land?
Agricultural 1, permitted use, year-round dwellings occupied by owners or persons engaging in farming activities. Buildings, structures, or improvements that are integral part or incidental to agricultural uses, Wisconsin State Statutes 91.01, parent 2. Agricultural processing industries and warehouses, except slaughterhouses, renderings, and fertilizer plants, and commercial smokehouses. Any activity or business operation that is an integral part or incidental to an agricultural use. Vacation farms or other farm-oriented recreational uses such as riding stables, winter sports activities, and game farms. Risk goes on. Roadside stands for sales of products grown on the premises, essential services and utilities, soil and water conservation programs, licensed in-home daycare, enrolling land into a federal agricultural commodity program or incentive. And then there's a separate list of uses authorized by conditional use, which does have for slaughterhouses, rendering, fertilizer plants, commercial smokehouses, portable sawmills, taxidermy, real estate offices. It's a pretty extensive list. That's with a CUP authorization.
Thank you.
Does that have county parks listed? I would say yes. Yeah, for a conditional use, public and semi-public uses, including private parks, schools, recreation areas, rest homes, senior citizen complexes, hospitals, homes for the aged.
Okay.
Fire police station.
Ms. Bennett, you have anything you want to say?
Nope, just listening.
Okay, thank you.
I got one more, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Mr. Schuman.
Jay, were both town boards unanimous in their decision to approve?
Yeah, they all signed. I did not get a chance to attend those meetings, but if I'm a town supervisor and I'm in objection to something, I'm not signing the letters that were submitted. And in the case of town of Bass Lake and town of Hayward, all of those supervisors, as well as the chairs, signed those letters.
There was one person in Hayward that did not agree with it.
He abstained.
Yes, either abstained or he voted no. But all the other people voted for it.
All right, committee, what's your,
Can you wait till Jake finds that? Because what he announced earlier was that it was.
Yeah, you said it was Hayward?
Yes.
First name was Mark.
That's the Comprehensive Planning Commission, not the town.
That's
board.
right. It was,
Yeah.
just for clarification, that was probably the planning commission and not the town board,
Okay,
correct?
it may have been,
Yeah.
yes.
And what the question is, did the town board approve it? And they all signed this. Every one of the signatures are here.
Okay.
all right, committee.
I'll make a motion to approve the rezoning as presented.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We have a motion by Ms. Hessel, and a second by Mr. Paulson to
Paulson?
approve rezone number 22-003 and 22-004. Any more discussion? Go ahead.
Jay, this is not prime agricultural land. Is that what the soil tests reveal?
That's what the NRCS web soil survey had indicated. I believe I have that. Yep. I believe it's my last page. Yep. So this is the web soil survey indication, and this is for that entire property there. Looking at the color coding of red, red is indicated as not prime farmlands as identified through the National Resources Conservation Society.
And would RR2 rezone allow soccer fields? Recreational field.
If it's a
Oh,
private,
sorry.
it's a private park, yes. Private recreational field, yes.
Private recreation.
That was one.
Yep, it would. Yep.
Okay.
As a conditional use permit for a public and private park, playground, and water sport area.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve these two rezones. Roll call, Kathy?
Ron Buckholz.
No.
Oops. Got the wrong line. Bruce Paulson,
Yes.
Dawn Pettit,
Yes.
Tweed Schuman,
No.
Stacy Hessel,
Yes.
3-2.
Findings and facts is that it is in alignment with the town's comprehensive plan, and also, sure, that's okay. It would not destroy prime agricultural lands.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's give me a second to get to my
Sure.
stuff
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
I was thinking myself.
Okay, let's do that while Jay's getting ready. We're gonna take another 10-minute break. Okay, call Sawyer County Zoning Committee meeting back to order.
All right, this is the public hearing in the town of Bass Lake, conditional use permit number 22-006, as well as the public hearing in the town of Hayward, conditional use permit number 22-007. Legal description for the town of Bass Lake is the north one half of part lot 1, CSM number 4022. Parcel number 0029400042108. We just heard a recommendation of approval of a vote of 3-2 for the proposed rezone to RR2. Conditional use permit number 22-007, the town of Hayward. Legal description was read into record as part of the same rezone that we just heard. Again, that rezone was recommended to the County Board of Supervisors, a vote of 3-2 to rezone to residential recreational 2. The staff report serves as record for both conditional use permits. Each conditional use, we are combining them. The permit is requested of 197 site RV park southeast of Spring Creek. A buffering of existing golf course holes around the perimeter of the property would remain. All commercial C1 zone portions are to remain commercial 1. This request is made under section 17.3 parent B parent 1 of the Sawyer County zoning ordinance, subject to the provisions of section 6.6 of the Sawyer County zoning ordinance. With the potential approval of the rezone 22-003 and 22-004. Again, this request is for the 197 unit campground. The campground layout must meet all minimum standards as specified in section 6.6 and also meet the standards of ATCP 79 for campground regulations. If a campground layout is to change, a new map must be placed on file with the Zoning and Conservation Department and approved by the Sawyer County Zoning Committee. The current request shows approximately 29 sites fully located in the town of Hayward, 4 that approximately straddle the town lines, and the remaining 164 located in the town of Bass Lake side. The nearest designated site to a vacant property in the town of Hayward, that is to the north, is approximately 90 feet. The nearest designated site to the residential structure in the town of Hayward is to the northeast and is approximately 280 feet. The nearest designated site in a vacant property in the town of Bass Lake is to the west, and that is approximately 220 feet. The nearest designated site to a residential structure in the town of Bass Lake is to the southeast and is approximately 300 feet. Previous requests for this campground operation have occurred twice in the last 2 years. In previous requests for the rezone and conditional use permit, they were both withdrawn before coming to the Sawyer County Zoning Committee, and that there was a deed restriction document for a right of first refusal from an adjacent property owner that had a restriction in place that this land cannot be anything other than a golf course. That deed restriction as of December of 2020 was removed by Mr. Robert Gershbach. That is what ultimately withdrew the previous request that we had. That Mr. Gershbach did not release that document and now has. To keep in mind, with additional information for conditional use permits, that substantial evidence needs to be a factor, which means that the facts and information other than merely personal preferences or speculation directly pertaining to the requirements and conditions that an applicant must meet in order to obtain a conditional use permit that a reasonable person would accept in support of the conclusion. If the applicant agrees to meet all the requirements and conditions as specified in the county ordinance or those imposed by a county zoning board, the county shall grant the conditional use permit. Any conditions imposed must be related to the purpose of the ordinance and be based upon substantial evidence. The conditions must be reasonable and to an extent practicable and measurable. The applicant must demonstrate that the application and all requirements of the condition established by the county relating to the conditional use are or shall be satisfied, both of which must be supported by substantial evidence. The county's decision to approve or deny the permit must be supported by substantial evidence. I've listed a potential conditions for approval. In discussion with some of the town board members, they had also had conditions that I believe they state on their opinion or their town fact sheet that the owner did agree to the list of their conditions. Specifically, this one is the town of Bass Lakes. Motion for approval, Justin Hall, town chairman, Marshall Savitsky, supervisor, Dave Albright, supervisor, Don Adams, supervisor, Bob Hammond, supervisor. Approved with conditions attached from the town of Bass Lake, and approval of the following conditions listed for CUP 22-006 is required for approval of the rezone. Findings of fact, the applicant is requesting a CUP permit for a campground. The property required to be conditionally rezoned to residential recreational 2. The prior use of the property was a golf course with clubhouse, which is similar to a proposed public use. The property has adequate access to public roads. The property is located within the town of Bass Lake Fire Protection District. Under conclusions of law, the planning committee finds and concludes the following regarding the standards for the review of the conditional use permit. The planning committee shall consider the effect of such grant on the health, general welfare, safety, and economic prosperity of the town and the immediate area in which such use would be located. Number 1, is the proposed use permitted in the zone by conditional use? Conclusion, the proposed use is authorized in RR2 zone district by conditional use permit. The district is intended to provide for residential development and essential recreational oriented service oriented uses, where soil conditions and other physical features will support development without depleting or destroying natural resources. The findings, as per section 17.3, parent B, parent 1 does list campgrounds subject to the revisions of section 6.6. Section 2.1, parent 13, a campground. They just state the definition of a campground. And then they state the actual ordinance of section 6.6. If there's questions on that, I can go over that. Number 2, what is the nature of the request? The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for 197 unit campground. Number 3, is the proposed use consistent with the comprehensive plan? Conclusion, the proposed use is consistent with the town of Bass Lake comp plan. Findings is that the use is consistent with the town of Bass Lake comprehensive plan, section 8.4 existing land use and 8.10 land use regulation. Again, that's specifically talking about the park and recreation area as identified in the Town of Bass Lake Comprehensive Plan. Number 4, will the proposed use be injurious to other property in the immediate vicinity, negatively change the established character and quality of the area, causing possible hazardous, harmful, noxious, offensive, or nuisance effects resulting from noise, dust, smoke, odor, or other factors? Conclusion. The proposed use will not be injurious to other properties.
You fuckers are stupid cocksuckers.
Oh,
Fuck
wow,
you.
this is
Fuck
from your
you.
town.
Oh, fuck you.
Wow.
Brains were cotton. You fuckers couldn't make a Tampax for a fucking pisshead. Fuck off.
This is from the Town of Bass Lake. I'm reading the Town of Bass Lake's comments into record.
I understand.
I don't even know where it was.
You were just
nuisance
the
part.
first one.
Conclusion that the proposed use will not be injurious to others or property in the immediate vicinity, will not negatively change and establish the character. The findings, the committee finds that a campground on this former public golf course property would not be injurious to other properties in the vicinity, nor will it negatively change the essential character of the area. The proposed campground is similar to the prior public use that existed for many years. Conditions of approval will adequately mitigate nuisance from the proposed campground, providing setbacks for property lines. Additionally, the applicant is required to meet numerous additional conditions to address this issue. Prior similar public uses of a golf course did not negatively have effects. Number 5, will the proposed use negatively impact its physical attractiveness, existing topography, drainage features, erosion potential, vegetative cover, the prevention and control of water pollution, the location with respect to floodplains and floodways? Conclusion, the proposed use will not negatively affect these physical features. The findings, the committee finds that there will not be issues with the proposed campground in regards to its physical attractiveness, existing topography, drainage features, erosion potential, vegetative cover, prevention of water pollution, and locations with respect to floodplains and floodways. The addition of campsites on the former golf course, which are subject to Wisconsin state inspections and campground site plan approvals on the property, will not have a negative impact on the physical attractiveness, and again, repeats itself. Prior similar public use on the golf course did not have a negative effect. Number 6, does legal access to the property for the development exist, or will it exist at the time of the final plat? Conclusion, legal access exists to the property off of Fun Valley Road. Findings, access exists to the current residents of the subject property, meaning I guess the lodge. Will there be undue interference with existing or future traffic patterns? Conclusion, there will not be undue interference with the existing or future traffic patterns. Findings, the request will not significantly increase the existing or future traffic patterns. Prior property use of public golf course did not have the effect on traffic. Number 8, will essential services be provided to accommodate those including but not limited to school facilities, police and fire protection, emergency medical service, irrigation facilities, and will services be negatively impacted by such use or required additional public findings in order to meet the needs created by the requested use? Conclusion, essential services will be provided and the application will not negatively impact the services. The findings, that the prior property used a public golf course and did not have effects on existing services or additional public funding. And now I will read in the conditions that the town of Bass Lake did specify. And I guess I would have the applicant correct me if I'm wrong. They did agree to all of these conditions, Adam?
Yes, sir.
So the town of Bass Lake's conditions, approval of the following conditions listed for 22-006 are required until approval of these conditions as listed without change unless approved by the town of Bass Lake and by the Sawyer County Zoning Committee. Any current or future request or removal of change of any conditions shall be required by the town of Bass Lake approval. These conditions must be recorded on the property listed as a deed restriction in the Sawyer County Office Register of Deeds. The campground will comply with all requirements of Wisconsin Admin Code ATCP 79 for food, lodging, and recreation. All permits, fees, campground planned approvals, and inspections required by the State Department of Agricultural Trade and Consumer Protection must be obtained. Maximum number of sites at the campground limited to 197. Maximum to include total of all sites under CUP 22-006 and 22-007 in the town of Hayward. All sites subject to pay annual fees paid to the town of Bass Lake as per their ordinance 21-06-14. Setbacks, any sites included but not limited to campers, park models, trailers, tents, or seasonals must be within the previous golf course, tees, fairways, and putting greens. For the setbacks of the property lines, a survey establishing the meandering setbacks will be provided to the town and county prior to the construction of the campgrounds for compliance. Vegetative cover must be maintained within the setbacks. All other conditions apply. Water park, ATV trails, or similar separate uses are not allowed. No mobile homes allowed, only recreational equipment. Accommodations included but not limited to travel trailers, park models, campers, tents. All lighting must be down lighting. Any signage must comply with the requirements of section 5.0, the Sawyer County zoning ordinance. All wastewater and septic systems must comply with the state of Wisconsin and Sawyer County regulations. All provisions of the Sawyer County zoning ordinance, section 6.6, dated June 20th, 2019, shall be considered as minimum requirements. All ingress and egress shall comply with DOT, Sawyer County, and Bass Lake regulations. Campground can only be open from April 1st to November 1st. A manager or designee must be on site or available 24 hours per day. Quiet hours are to be from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. every day. No fireworks or firearms are allowed. That was the town of Bass Lake. Town of Hayward. Motion approved. Gary Gedart, Chairman. Henry Bayerhart, Supervisor. Andrea Whitworth, Supervisor. Attached with conditions. And I think they have most of the same, but let me see if there are any differences. They talk about setbacks. All associated campground structures must be set back a minimum of 75 feet from property lines and the width of the formerly existing fairways along the east, as shown on the proposal map, formerly known as Fairway 2 and 3. Additional setbacks is all the property northwest of Spring Lake Creek. Vegetative cover must be maintained within the setbacks. A survey establishing the meandering setbacks of the formerly existing fairways will be provided to the town and county prior to construction of the campground. So that was slightly different. The town of Hayward also indicated that a wetland delineation shall be completed prior to any land or earth disturbance activities. That provisions are to be made so that there is no reduction or impact in broadband, internet, or Wi-Fi services for adjacent property owners due to the campground activities. That appropriate Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources stormwater permits or other appropriate permits are to be required prior to any land or earth disturbance activities. That all campsites and other associated campground facilities must be 75 feet from the ordinary high water mark of Spring Lake Creek or adjoining wetlands. Again, those are lists of potential conditions that both of the towns had indicated. You can either accept those or not. It doesn't have any indication from the town of Hayward that the applicant agreed to those conditions. The ones I just read for the town of Hayward were those that were different from the town of Bass Lake, which the applicant did agree to. Leave it at that. And also to mention that the committee members did receive all the neighbor opinion letters and other correspondence and had a chance to review those, and those are therefore incorporated into the record. That is all.
Okay, thank you, Jay. All right, we need a motion to go into public hearing on CUP number 22-006 and number 22-007. Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hessel and a second by Ms. Pettit to go into public hearing on CUP number 22-006 and 22-007. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. We are now in public hearing. On you people that want to speak, can you raise your hand? Okay, all right, Ms. Boja, you wanna speak again, or are you okay?
I have one comment regarding.
Go ahead, you can step up there.
Speak at the end.
No, but if you're gonna say anything, go to the
You
mic.
gotta go to the mic, yeah.
And you have to say your name again because you're on the record.
Adam Bodenschatz, Pinewood Properties, 9948N.
Adam, you gotta talk louder.
Yes,
Use
sir.
your outdoor voice.
Let me clear my throat here.
Yeah, there you go.
Adam Bodenschatz, Pinewood Properties LLC, 9948N, Wood Creek Lane, Hayward, Wisconsin. Again, the project is, there's only a couple of comments that I just need to reiterate, is that when we submitted this plan, we did look at both townships' comprehensive plans that specifically label campgrounds within this very specific location. I don't think we're asking anything out of the ordinary. Both towns approved it. I understand there's some neighbors that are upset. The hardest thing for anyone to accept is change. If somebody wanted this to be a golf course, somebody would have bought it. There's been for sale for 8 or 9 years. It's not going to remain a golf course. Nobody's, I think 9 years has proven that it's not going to be viable as a golf course. This falls within the comprehensive plan's definitions of parks and recreation and commercial recreation. And that's why I submitted this application. And this is also the industry that we're in. We have many properties. We know how to run properties like this, and that's all I have to say. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Did you agree to the conditions from the town of Hayward?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bodenschatz, have you considered maybe a smaller number of sites? It seems to me like 197 sites here is putting campers on top of each other. Which, you know, we have that camping ordinance, right? That was recently just approved, Jay. Where
Yeah, it complies with that.
Okay. But can you answer that, please?
Yes, you bet. Okay, so the current ordinance is 5 per acre, and with the way that I have mine spaced out, we're just over 2 per acre. I believe that I made a very large concession considering what I could put in there in less than half of what the county allows. That's why I chose 197 instead of something. I guess I could have gone for more, but that's not the property that I want to own.
Okay, thank you. All right, who wants to be the first one to speak? And we're only going to allow 2 minutes this time because we got to go through everybody.
I'm gonna take like 20 seconds. Gene Roush, 6'6", and North White Lane, Stone Lake, Wisconsin. Mr. Paulson asked the question about whether he approved the CUP.
Agreed to the conditions.
Agreed to the conditions, right. Is that documented that he agreed to conditions, or did he just verbalize that?
It is right now. He's on record stating that he
Right now.
agreed to the conditions.
Okay, all right, thank you, that's all I want.
Okay. Next. Go ahead, sir.
Once again, my name is Jake Gondik, attorney for some of the surrounding property owners. Address 1215 Belknap Street, Superior. First off, I think I forgot the first time to thank everybody for what they do. I understand you got to make some hard decisions sometimes. And ultimately, I will make this brief, but I think a few more conditions that could be added or at least looked at here for potentially for approval that would kind of preserve the interests of some of the adjacent landowners here with the single family homes would be as follows. I did put this in my, my colleague's letter that he wrote. So I'll just go over them quick so they're on the record, and then ultimately, if you guys decide you want to take a vote on that. Out of the 7 conditions here, first one being no alcohol should be sold on site, no alcohol license should be granted for the site, which includes the proposed campground lodge, which is currently zoned commercial. The second one being no events, including but not limited to weddings, concerts, and festivals shall be hosted on site, which includes events at the proposed campground lodge. The third being the hours for campfires should be strictly limited to reduce the effects of smoke. Obviously, we can put parameters on that as far as what, is strictly limited. No sound amplification system should be permitted on site, including speaker systems used by Pinewood or speaker systems brought into the property by Pinewood's customers. Fifth being the idling of RVs should be prohibited. The sixth, the use of generators on site by Pinewood's customers should be prohibited. And seventh, the minimum setback for campsites should be articulated within this conditional use permit and should correspond with the proposed site plan previously before the zoning committee to ensure the campsites do not encroach on the surrounding residential properties. I believe the setback was 75 feet and had to be within the previous fairway, something of that sort. Another condition that we would propose that is not in here is that there has to be some sort of natural screening, whether that is a fence, whether that is conifers surrounding the outskirts. So ultimately there isn't this eyesore idea of, I guess, potentially ruining the quiet use and enjoyment of the property owners. So those are, I guess, the 8 conditions that off the top of my head that I propose on behalf of the single family home adjacent neighbors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the record will reflect that we gave a copy of your letter to everyone, so they have it.
Thank you.
Yeah, they received it earlier. Now they just have a paper copy in front of them. They didn't print one off for today's meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
Zilmer, you want to talk? 2 minutes?
Linda Zilmer, 902 Holly Hill Lane, Richard, Wisconsin, Edgewater property owner. And I wasn't going to speak except for the upsetting by an affected property owner. In my years of experience here, this is 3rd Corporation Council. It's his first day here. I appreciate some of the discussion I've heard today, especially around helping clarify around substantial evidence, supporting opinions or findings or conclusions. And I just want to point out that that can go both ways. Just as unless you come in with an appraisal from a certified real estate appraiser showing a reduction in property values, it might be considered hearsay. But I probably didn't react quite as strongly to the town of Bass Lake's decisions. But about a week ago, I received a copy from the town. And when I read through, I guess I could say the top of my head almost blew off too, because to me, a lot of their findings that are for their decision to approve the rezone and conditional use permit also aren't really based on substantial evidence. They're more opinions. So as today you're carefully considering substantial evidence, understand that it's not just those that are opposed, but also those that are for. Thank you.
Thank you. Next. 2 minutes, sir.
Ken Melander, 16023 Fun Valley Road. In regards to Bass Lake, family members and I own property right to the driveway. We never got a notice from anybody. And all their guidelines and everything, I think, was written in the 50s. Things have changed. Everything's changed around the golf course from what it was, quick, till now. There's several other residents. There's a new development going right down the road from it. So nobody ever talks about environmental water issues. You're going to see, if you actually get out there and look, go to the Sierra Club, the Wisconsin chapter, Elizabeth Ward, she's a deal. I've talked to many environmental deals that we're not proactive on doing something to protect our water. It's going to be hell to play in front of people up here. I'm serious. I've been around the country. I've seen it. They're in Washika, they can't even drink their water because the salt is filtrated down to their well. It's contaminated with radon and deals. There's another lawsuit that the Attorney General took on. There was 170 some wells that got contaminated. They were awarded 17.6 million. If you do not take this septic ground deals on the soil seriously, we're gonna have an issue. Seriously, we can come together and be proactive. I care about wildlife, our ecosystems, and water bodies. Back when I was a pro angler, I give seminars, starting with bacteria, zooplankton, phytoplankton, on our ecosystems and water bodies. If you don't have an understanding of it, talk to somebody that does. You have a lot of my links that were forwarded to you. I'm not just making shit up. Pardon the pun.
Thank you, sir. Well, go ahead, sir. I just want to make a suggestion that we keep the language to clean.
I apologize.
That's okay, thank you.
Guy Houston, Hayward, Wisconsin, 15873 West Sunshine Acres Lane. Before I start to talk, I just have one question that I'd like to address the board. In the Bass Lake, when they approved the rezoning and conditional use permit, did Mr. Hall, did he vote on that? Was he one of the voting members? You don't have to answer right now, but that's just my one question, and I'll get into what I'm supposed to be talking about.
Can I ask you a question? Is he a town board member?
He's the head of it.
Yeah. Those signatures there.
Yeah, it looks like, yeah, he signed it.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just bring up that he has a piece of land that is right next to that golf course, so that would be kind of in his better interest if he's approving this, because he has the potential to be able to sell that land. So that may be, I don't know what's the correct term. Conflict of interest. So I'm just throwing that out there. But on to the conditional use permit. As to the actual proposal by Pinewood, it's extremely vague. It's as if they scribbled it on a cocktail napkin, grabbed some maps from the courthouse and said, here I am, I want to rezone this area and I want a conditional use permit. For what? This isn't a building plan, it's a concept plan. Your maps are not to scale. There's very few details. It's difficult to read, and it's even harder to evaluate. I'm looking for a formal engineered site plan, and I'm just not seeing it here. And if you allow the conditional use to be issued, it's all done. Pinewood can do whatever they want. They don't even have to build a campground. They could flip the property to another potential buyer because they have the rezoning and conditional use permit. And everything is so vague, they could pretty much do whatever they wanted with a piece of property.
You want to finish up, sir?
Yes. One more sentence.
Okay.
To most of us, our homes are our most expensive asset. And this is attacking our home and our quality of life in and around our home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that your phone?
Oh, it is. Thanks.
Go ahead.
Chris Nelson.
Chris Nelson, you want to speak?
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair Buckholz, members of the committee, and I thank the zoning administrator for distributing our letter. My address is 430 2nd Street, Hudson, Wisconsin. And you've heard from my colleague, Jake Gondik, so I'll be extremely brief here. First, I just want to state that our clients, who are numerous homeowners who border the development, would oppose the issuance of a conditional use permit because of the effects that the campground would have on the general welfare, safety, health, and economic prosperity of the area. That it would be a fundamental change to the character of the area, which is defined by single-family housing, and due to the possible hazards, noxious and offensive odors and nuisance conditions that are inherent in campgrounds. We're talking about noise, we're talking about lighting, and we're talking about smoke. So we oppose it for that reasons. If the committee is going to go forward with recommendation to approve the conditional use permit, I think the conditions outlined by the zoning administrator and by the town of Hayward are a great start, particularly Hayward's incorporation of the old fairways for setbacks. The homeowners would like to see a number on that. It's a little, as Mr. Houston said, vague what those conditions are and how it's depicted on the site plan. Would propose at least a 300-foot setback from any property lines to ensure there's that buffer area to reduce any nuisance effects, to reduce any effects from smoke. Finally, I'd just like to say that a significant portion of this property, although the conditional use permit will apply to the entire property, a significant portion of it is zoned commercial. And some of the permitted uses include commercial entertainment facilities, taverns, retail sales, and restaurants. Basically an event facility, a bar, all of these things could be established, a liquor store at that lodge, and that would be permitted under the zoning. So in order to reduce the negative impacts on the single family neighborhood, we'd like to see that the conditional use permit incorporates some restrictions on how that commercial property could be used so that it doesn't turn into well, essentially an event center or a bar, in addition to the conditions that my colleague Jake outlined. I thank the committee for its time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
I kind of have a question.
Come up to the, state your name again, ma'am.
Carol Middlestar, 15890 West Sunshine Acres Lane. I'd like you to help me understand fully about what we as property owners around the golf course and neighborhood, do we have anything to say that would make a difference here? Nobody ever really contacted me personally, but through the, we're kind of a family community there, and through talking to people, they're very opposed to this. We were a year and a half ago, and with the other fellow that wanted to buy it. Help me understand why us property owners that pay our taxes and do everything that we think we should be doing as responsible people to one another, why we don't have a voice. I feel that way in my heart, that we, no matter how we feel in our hearts about our community, you people just don't seem to see that. Can you help me?
Quite frankly, I'll be the jerk in the room. That's a topic for the committee, like in that opening comment section. Right now, they're only supposed to be dealing with conditional use permits. The comment you're asking about is how does a citizen participate in government? And then you're doing it right now by making your statements known to them and bringing facts and evidence to them. The other way you do it is voting. You vote people in and out of office that have the attitudes. That's how government, works. I mean, I teach local government at college, so I'll tell you that that's what it is. But you can't ask them, and that's why I'm not going to let them comment, because they're supposed to be just talking about conditional use permits right now. But the general question is a good one.
I think Act 67.
Thank
you could talk about it a little bit too, if you wanted.
Right. I will be about Act 67 in a minute.
Yes, sir.
Can I make a 3-minute statement?
No, 2 minute. But you already,
I mean, like.
you already talked once. but
15 seconds.
Go ahead.
Ken Milner, 16023 West Pond Valley Road. The developer stated that they've run these parks, RV parks in the past, and they're really good. They operated really well. Well, why is it over at Cisco's, he had to remove a bunch of RV park sites because he violated DNR regulations?
Okay, thank you.
Question.
Go ahead.
Well, let's get out of public hearing.
Oh, okay.
All right, anyone else want to speak in favor or in opposition? Any hands up on the mic? Okay, all right, I need a motion to come out of public hearing on CUP number 22-006 and CUP number 22-007.
I'll make that motion.
Second. We have a motion by Ms. Hessel and a second by Mr. Schuman to come out of public hearing on CUP number 22-006 and 22-007. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. We are out of public hearing.
This is the discussion action for those conditional use permits. As the chairman just stated, legal description is previously read into record. I'll open it up for discussion because I'm sure there's going to be some questions about the possible conditions, and I'll just wait until we get there. I believe legal counsel wanted to state something as well.
Yes.
And Mr. Paulson had a question as well.
Yes. Let's start with Mr. Paulson.
Go ahead.
Well, thank you, guys. Can we consider actions on other campgrounds when we look at this conditional use permit? We had mention of the Cisco's problem.
If you had reason to believe that the person could not meet the requirements of your ordinance, that he was not capable of doing that, you'd have to have substantial evidence to support that.
Right.
If you did have substantial evidence that he cannot meet the requirements of the ordinance, yes, that's a legitimate consideration, but you have to have evidence of that.
Right. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, the thing I wanted to point out is what you have to recognize that under Act 67, which was whispered in my ear again, and that really changed the world of conditional use permits. And I think some of you have probably heard this speech before, is once you rezone property, now as long as it is a allowable use, we don't use the word permitted because that means it's automatic, but allowable use with conditions, as long as the applicant can meet the conditions, then you have to grant the applicant the conditional use permit subject to those legitimate conditions. The other thing that I think you have to be very cognizant of is your own zoning code has very detailed rules as to campgrounds. And this has been defined by as a campground. And I think even if I call it an RV park, you're calling it for purposes of the rezoning, the RR district, that it's a campground. So it's going to have to meet all those requisites. Plus any reasonable conditions, and that's the other key word, any reasonable conditions that you would put on the property. In other words, and when you make a condition, you have to show that the condition supports what we call a public interest. So the other part of this is when you're dealing with the test is you have to understand that the conditions and the use of conditional permits is to eliminate or reduce public harm and to address commensurate actions that can be taken. So when you do this, you really have to talk about, okay, is there something that our ordinance doesn't cover that we should put on as a condition in addition to our ordinance and in addition to the town ordinance, because your town ordinance is, according to your ordinance, also control campgrounds. Right.
One of the towns do. They have a subsequent town ordinance for campgrounds.
Yeah.
Or for campers and campgrounds. Yep.
So you've got that duality going on here. So anything you add on top of that, you basically are going to, if you grant the conditional use, that's the first step, of course, and then the conditions can follow from there. But to deny the conditional use, you're going to have to show that this applicant can't meet the conditions that exist within the ordinance, what the purpose of the ordinance is.
I have a question.
Yeah.
According to this, there are additional conditions. Is this something that we need to address, or is this overreach?
I can't. Yeah, I was going to say, I can't tell you what's overreach, not. I can tell you what's legal and illegal. For example, you cannot restrict the C1 district. Right. You'd have to redo your zoning code.
And a lot of these issues are already in place in the townships anyway.
A lot of those issues are in both well, first of all, the township the things the township is conditioning, you're gonna have to either approve those or disapprove those. Because one town does have the right to do that, the other one doesn't. So they're looking for you, and they're looking for you to give them advice on how you want to do it. You're gonna give the permit, the town's not giving the permit per se. But the town does have standards. The bigger question is, remember that some of those things you can't take a C1 district and put conditions on it if it's an allowable use. You know, I can't go into a residential home that's permitted in R1 district and say you got to paint it green, or you can't put in a well. You got to, you know, those are the things you got to recognize.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so Jay, all the conditions we have in here are on page 1 of your staff report then?
So
It says
I
file CUP 22006 and 22007. Then you go down here to conditions,
correct, but
possible conditions. for
Yep.
approval.
and that's the key is the possible conditions, because I had made up that list, you know, using some of the, you know, probably hot button items that we would have. The town took my list and incorporated some additional conditions. So I wouldn't be looking specifically at my staff report anymore unless you wanted to dismiss some of the other conditions that the towns had mentioned. Now, the
Are
town.
both towns in this list?
No, because I developed the list prior to the towns.
Oh.
The towns then added to my list already. The town of Hayward has a few more conditions than the town of Bass Lake had. We did hear from the applicant that he did agree to the town of Hayward's conditions. I can reread those again. And then I think we also need to have discussion on, you know, the attorney's kind of information as to other potential conditions that they would like to see addressed as well. So let me just reread the town of Hayward's, because that's going to be the most comprehensive of them. They're going to include all of mine, all of Bass Lake's, and some additional. So town of Hayward's conditions, and again, you can add or delete from this, that the approval of the following conditions listed as CUP 22-007 and 22-006 is required for the rezone applications. That any current or future request or removal of or change of any conditions shall be required for not only town of Bass Lake, but of town of Hayward approvals. That these conditions must be recorded in the Sawyer County Register of Deeds as a deed restriction.
Understand, I want to get a statement out here. If you give a permit is to the applicant. There was a concept that once you permit it, everybody can do the same thing. That's not true. And that's what you're saying, because once they're recorded, you can put a restriction that anyone that wants to change these would have to come back in. So if it's a different company, a different campground, or you could say it runs with the land. That's up to you. It's not an automatic. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. And I guess they'll probably want some additional information on that as far as what's a better route to
Sure.
go with that.
I'm sorry.
That campgrounds will comply with all the requirements of Wisconsin Admin Code ATCP 79. That all permits, fees, campground plan approvals, and inspections required by ATC or DADCAP must be obtained. The maximum number of sites be limited to no more than 197. That would include both the town of Hayward and the town of Bass Lake collectively. That setbacks, any site included to but not limited to camper, park model, trailer, tent, and all associated campground structures must be set back a minimum of 75 feet from property lines, and that the width of the formerly existing fairways along the east, as shown on the proposal map, formerly known as fairways 2 and 3. Additional setback is all properties northwest of Spring Lake Creek vegetative cover must be maintained within the setbacks. A survey establishing the meandering setbacks of the formerly existing fairways shall be provided to the town and county prior to the construction of the campground for compliance. Vegetative cover must be maintained within the setbacks. All other conditions apply. That a water park, ATV trails, or similar separate uses are not allowed. That no mobile home parks are allowed. That all lighting must be downed lighting. All signage must require or meet the requirements of section 5 of the Sawyer County zoning ordinance. All wastewater and septic systems must comply with the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources and Sawyer County regulations. All provisions of the Sawyer County zoning ordinance section 6.6 shall be considered as minimum requirements. All ingress and egress shall comply with Wisconsin Department of Transportation, Sawyer County, Bass Lake, and Town of Hayward regulations. Campgrounds and any amenities can be open April 1st until November 1st. A manager or designee must be available 24 hours per day. The quiet hours are to be from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. every day and apply across the entirety of all operations. No fireworks or firearms are allowed within the campground. A wetland delineation shall be completed prior to any land and earth disturbance activities. Provisions are to be made that there is no reduction or impact on broadband, internet, or Wi-Fi service for adjacent properties due to campground activities. That might be tough. Appropriate Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources stormwater permits and other appropriate permits are to be acquired prior to land and earth disturbance activities. That all campsites and other campground facilities must be 75 feet from the ordinary high water mark of Spring Lake Creek and adjacent wetlands. That is a comprehensive conditions of what I have, Bass Lake has, and Town of Hayward has. That's not including other potential conditions that we heard from individuals here this morning. This
What
afternoon.
condition did you just say that would be hard to?
Provisions are to be met so that there is no reduction
internet.
or
Oh, I
impact
see.
of broadband, internet, or Wi-Fi service for adjacent property owners due to campground activities. I don't even know how you would have metrics for that.
You could, I mean, your.
Mike's the Wi-Fi guys.
Yeah, no, but I mean, your service could degenerate if everybody on the campground was sucking in Wi-Fi, all the neighbors.
It's the same as Berkey.
Pardon
The
me?
same thing happens in town during Berkey or any event.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that's how you can measure it.
But the question becomes, is there anything unique about this project as to anything else that could be carried out there? And there's probably nothing.
I don't see any.
Right, because again, I mean, you know, the recommendation right now is for approval of the rezone to RR2. And even if the applicant didn't want to proceed with a campground
Right.
within that RR2 zone district, you could have single family lots now. And
Absolutely.
we wouldn't have conditions as far as broadband or Wi-Fi when looking at a kind of subdivision development there.
You have another question, Mr. Paulson?
The proposals from the attorneys about no alcohol or events, I mean, they could do that on the commercial, right? If they just couldn't do it on the, if we impose these conditions, they couldn't do it on the new rezone.
If they have a liquor license.
Right, they would have to get a liquor license. That's in Bass Lake, isn't it?
It is correct. I think that's the important thing you'd want to make, that if you want to add these as conditions, that they're conditioned to that newly, I'll say potentially rezoned area. Because again, to put conditions on the commercial zone district, you can't. But you could have a condition that a liquor license or sale of alcohol not be allowed within the RR2 zone district.
Right.
Or that, you know, events such as weddings or concerts or festivities not be allowed on the RR2 zone district.
right.
Because within the commercial, it's an allowed use.
Right. Okay.
Okay, committee.
Well, can we reasonably make a decision today without seeing an amalgamation of all the potential conditions? I mean, we've got Bass Lake, we've got Hayward, we've got the ones recommended by the attorney. I mean, I don't know which are good and which are bad.
Well, the conglomerate right now is the town of Haywards. The town of Haywards has mine and has Bass Lakes incorporated in them. And you can reference this document as a record of the conditions.
We can incorporate it by reference.
Right. I think the main question you want to look at then is, do we look at any other possible conditions out there that you also want to add to that, you called it amalgamation? I like that word. Yeah.
Jerry, would it be allowable to postpone this for a month? The CUP?
Oh, we're booked then.
Until we can review all these conditions.
Sure, we could if we
You-
decided to.
You
I'm
could,
just asking, is that allowed?
Yeah, absolutely.
At this point, you've gone too far.
Really.
Yeah, you really have gone too far.
Oh,
Yeah, if there was something you were going to gain by, other than looking and thinking, I mean, look and think if you want. You can go through every one of those, you can go through all 22. I mean, I can't tell you can't adjourn a meeting, for God's sake, I can't tell you that, but I will warn you that you've gone pretty
No, I
far.
didn't say adjourn.
Or recess or.
Postpone.
I just put the table or postpone the CUP until our next one, until we have time to review all these conditions.
But all the information was sent to you previously.
Yeah.
and I do have a copy of the town of Haywards. Again, that's the current combination of mine, Bass Lakes, and town of Haywards. That you guys can certainly review, and I can even print off additional copies at this point.
right.
Karen Buckholz, this is Ms. Pettit.
Go ahead.
I would not be in favor of tabling or rescheduling or postponing a vote on this. It's gone on long enough. Everything's being presented. We have it at the table. The town boards have approved the rezone and the CUPs. We just can't keep tabling stuff because certain things, because of what individuals had stated at these meetings as hearsay to prevent us from making a vote.
Okay.
Our camping guidelines are so restricted at this point. And we've gone through all of that, and the boards are putting conditions. We have conditions. It comes to a point where we have to make a decision. We just can't keep tabling things.
I agree with Ms. Bennett. There's enough here that came before the committee. We read everything that we can act on this today.
Can I go through the conditions proposed by the attorney? How do we feel about no alcohol on the rezoned parcels of land? No alcohol sales licenses.
You addressed that with the township issue.
Yeah, it's really a township issue. Well, yeah, township would have to issue a license if
But
they're going
that's
to
the
sell.
commercial. I was thinking of what we just rezoned. We didn't rezone the commercial.
But you can't sell alcohol in an RR district unless you have a license.
Right,
So
but you
you're-
could add that as a condition
Right.
that alcohol sales not be allowed within the
Right.
non-commercial zone district.
Right, and then events, I mean, don't we have an events ordinance that, you know, that.
Right, and those events, aren't included in this conditional use permit. They would need a separate conditional use permit if they were wanting to have a
Right.
venue type of setting.
Right, they would have to come back.
Correct, so I don't think you need to address that at this point, but, right,
And hours for campfires.
that's on you.
But that's a weather issue. If you need a campfire because it's cold, I mean, you can't control that.
Both these RVs have heaters. in them.
Well, why else do you have a campfire?
Right.
Cinco
No, I
de
mean, I'm
Mayo.
going through these.
Cinco de Mayo.
Marshmallows.
Right, no, I just want to get a sense of what.
And you have a noise ordinance that would control noise.
No.
Yeah,
There's a countywide noise.
Right.
ordinance.
and then idling of our RVs.
It goes back to your noise ordinance.
Okay, so we've got that. But we don't have a smoke ordinance, campground smoke ordinance, right?
We do not, and the noise ordinance does have hours specified.
Yeah.
I know the sheriff's department has a nuisance ordinance for noise. I do not know the parameters, but it
Right.
is a time, whether it's 10 PM or 11 PM, and it's over a certain decibel amount. We've already listed within the conditions of mine, Bass Lakes, and the town of Haywards, as far as the quiet hours to be from, was it 11 to 8 or 10 to 8?
Right.
10 PM to 8 AM every day is quiet hours.
Right, and the use of generators.
That could certainly be something you
Right.
discuss.
We
if
don't,
you-
yeah, we don't have a specific ordinance on generators, other than the broader noise ordinance.
But you only go back to the rule. The rule is if you're gonna create a condition, you gotta just find what the harm was.
Right.
So what's the harm of a generator?
Okay.
What's the harm of a generator?
Right.
Oh, you're saying sound?
Noise.
Well, then you have the noise ordinance.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right. And then the minimum setbacks, I mean, we've covered minimum setbacks, haven't we? And the town of Hayward has,
They do. I believe we heard some testimony from one of the attorneys that they were wanting additional minimum setbacks imposed. I believe I heard 300 feet
Yes, I
of a setback from property lines. So that's certainly something that you would want to address because that is different than what the towns have as well as I have. They're asking for an additional setback. A 300-foot setback would ultimately change the site location proposal.
right, so, but there would be justification for a 300-foot setback.
Again, if you say the need for this is because we have a harm and the harm is,
Right.
So-
Is it objectionable view harm?
yes, it is.
Okay, very good. Well, I guess I'm inclined to,
Couldn't that also be underneath where objectionable view, instead of doing the additional setback, that they have to put a, I wouldn't want to, if I was the people, or I wouldn't want a fence, but you do the trees. And you do, so it blocks the line of view. And you put trees in and you put trees, you outline it around the whole thing, the perimeter. So couldn't that, instead of having to do the setback, couldn't we do something like that,
You can create a buffer,
right,
a vegetative buffer is what we generally call it.
right.
And the town of Hayward's conditions specified some of that. But again, there was some discussion for additional buffering.
So, but what would be a reasonable compromise for a buffer? Is it 75 feet? Is it 300 feet?
Right, the ordinance states 75-foot
Right.
setback. You know, from there, the town of Hayward identified areas. You have my cheat sheet on it right now.
Yeah,
Somewhere in the middle. They've already identified additional buffering setbacks outside of the 75-foot minimum, which the applicant has agreed upon.
that's.
Now, if you want to go even further, I mean, you would want to make that a condition, but again, using Mr. Sorensen's rationale as far as, you know, the cause and effect, or the rationale as to why you're implementing an additional buffer.
Right, but the buffer that town of Hayward is just in the town of Hayward.
Correct.
More of these sites are in the town of Bass Lake than the town of Hayward.
But you could take the Hayward standard and apply it to the whole thing.
Right, but they went by fairways, didn't they?
Yeah, fairway 2 and 3. Can you read that, Mr. Schuman?
Yep, 75 feet from property lines and the width of the formerly existing fairways along the east, as shown on proposal map, formerly known as fairways 2 and 3.
Yeah, so they're looking at having fairway 2 and 3 and 75 feet.
Right.
Which, again, with the proposed layout, I believe meets those requirements. Now, if you were to go 300 feet from the property line, we would have to, there would have to be a change of map because the map would not be in compliance.
Right, but how do we provide an adequate buffer then for the sites that are in Bass Lake?
If the view was the objection, then you would suggest a vegetation
Right.
buffer, which would be pine trees,
Right, but I'm
shade trees.
I'm looking for a distance here.
Well, you combine all of them. They've
Well,
already done.
And keep in mind, again, does the distance create or distort the objectional view? You got to make sure there's a coordination
Right, no,
there.
I know, but I mean, the buffer would minimize noise, reduce the noise decibels.
Could also, you know, depends on what it's traveling through and over. You know.
Can you get on?
Well,
Go
Mr.
ahead.
Sorensen, my question is the distance or the setback from wetlands, so not just the property line. Is road shot's gonna meet all those setbacks? So what is that
Yes.
setback, Jay, from a wetland?
From a non-navigable, non-adjacent wetland would be a 40-foot setback. And I do not believe there are any non-adjacent, non-navigable wetlands on this property. The wetlands are associated with ordinary high water mark, and that would be a 75-foot setback. That was part of one of the conditions that the town of Hayward had on there. The town of Hayward also had as a condition that there be a wetland delineation performed as to mark that specific boundary line, and that the applicant meet a 75-foot setback from that boundary line. Again, agreed upon with the applicant. And that would be statewide standard, county zoning, shoreline standard.
Yes.
Could we bring Mr. Bodenschatz back up here and make sure he's gonna agree to all these?
He signed it.
conditions?
and he
He's
said it
already had.
publicly.
Well,
That's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, it just doesn't matter if he agrees if you put it as a condition.
He has to.
Right, okay.
You know, we're sitting here, you guys on this, you know, CUPs, and you guys want to add so many stipulations to it. We could be sitting here all day, and I don't want to sit here all day. Make up your mind what you want and let's move on.
How about you make a motion?
I guess I have one question, if it's okay, Mr. Chairman. Adam, do you know the approximate distance that your proposed sites are on the east side of the campground to the property lines? Be it in both towns, yes.
East
That,
side?
yep, that
Yep.
distance.
Yep, I believe it's mentioned in your staff report that is anywhere from 280 to like 300 feet along all that.
What about the west side, west and northwest?
Over here?
Yeah.
Over here,
I had that mentioned somewhere too. Let's see if I can find it. Because I know I took the,
I'm sorry, we did the.
No, it's fine. We're just working through this. Thanks for bearing with us.
okay. The nearest designated site to vacant property in the town of Hayward, the north side,
Right.
is to the north and is approximately 90 feet. That's way up in the top corner there, and to a non-developed parcel of land. Now, again, it's still someone else's private ownership.
What about Baston?
Let me go through this and we'll get to it. To the north is 90 feet. The nearest residence, again, is to the northeast, and that's 280 feet to the residence property line.
Right.
In the town of Bass Lake, to the west is the closest, and that's approximately 220 feet, that distance right there. To the nearest,
That's the big amount.
vacant, yep.
Right.
So the nearest designated residential lot is to the southeast, and it is approximately 300 feet.
That's the nearest.
Yeah, so that's as set forth in his plan proposal, which is part of a condition and also meets the conditions as set forth in the town of Hayward's amalgamation of the conditions. And
There's
the only question we have to come back to is the potential conditions that the opposition's attorney laid out, that they were wanting a larger one. Now, again, it's up to you as the committee to decide if you want to incorporate that or not.
I do have a question, but if that is proposed.
Yeah.
This is new.
Yeah, well, I'm not, yeah,
That's.
I'm not sure we're even thinking of proposing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead.
so the opposition's attorney is asking for 300 feet. He's already agreed to 280, 220. He's come all the way up more than half if you split it. You know, the 300 feet, it would be 150. He's come way, he's 220, 280. He's met that almost. He's already agreed to that. So we're haggling over, in some places, 20 feet and 80 feet. We already have this all in our setbacks and what he's agreed to.
So, may I ask a clarifying question? Sure, Jay. So Jay, on the Bass Lake side, the closest resident is 300 feet.
Closest resident in town of Bass Lake, 300,
So-
approximately.
Right, and then, so everybody else around the campground would be approximately more than 300 feet.
From that house.
from that house. Now, again, there's adjacent vacant land that's closer.
I was just dealing with.
Yep.
I just want to.
And then again, that's just in the town of Bass Lake, because the town of Hayward is a little bit different.
Right, but so all of the campsites would be at least 300 feet in Bass Lake from a residence.
As is proposed right now, yes.
And there was a comment about big, but I mean, I think all of our rules and ordinances, I mean, we're dotting every I and crossing every T, aren't we? It's not necessarily big. We have an outline of a plan that says you gotta meet these requirements. Okay.
If I may make one more comment to make sure, this is off of a CAD's actual survey. This whole layout, this is off of as detailed as I could possibly make it. Without going out there and stating points on individual sites.
Right.
It's not just a illustration.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask Jay a question? Jay, this is, to clarify, this is in his CUP application. This is what he proposed to the county, correct?
Yes.
So we're disputing something that he's already put forth. We're going over something that he's already put forth in his application, saying that this is what he's already agreed to do.
Yes, and then it's the case of, if there's other conditions that need to be met in order to be practicable and measurable for her discussion here today.
Right.
I'd like to make a motion to approve CUP 0022-006 and 22-007. Make a motion to approve with the combination of efforts between the town of Bass Lake, town of Hayward, and the county ordinances, and to follow all of the rules that apply.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to approve. We have a second.
Yes, I will.
Okay, we have a motion by Ms. Hessel, a second by Ms. Pettit to approve CUP number 22006 and 22007. Any more discussion?
Yeah, in discussion, Mr. Chairman, does that include any of these attorneys? Or we kind of iron those out that they don't? They're already allowed in our R2, so you're saying and they're already covered by other ordinances?
I believe Ms.
No,
Hessel's motion did not include those.
Because they are already included in our ordinances. That's why I did not address those, is because my motion was for the coverage of all the ordinances in place. So our opinion, our vote is based on fact. There's a lot of feelings that go around with zoning, but we have to base our decisions on facts.
Sorry, sir, but we're not in public hearing at the moment.
I just want to say that in this booklet, that map is not in there. That's the first time we're seeing an accurate map, and nowhere in this. That's why it's so vague, is because that map is not in this packet. That is not that.
Okay. All right. So
That's.
We're still in discussion, so Mr. Paulson, you got something to say?
no, not really.
Okay.
We didn't talk about buffer, but
Didn't talk about what?
the buffer, putting a buffer.
It's part of the town of Hayward.
It's their ordinance.
It's not ordinance.
But it's not the Bass Lake side.
It's all encompassing. That is what my motion made, was all encompassing
Yes.
presentations by the townships and by the county ordinances.
No, I understand, but
It's going to
Hayward is the only one that mentioned the
Right. I
fairway
think-
buffer.
But they're a combination, that's what my motion is, if we're
To
approving.
combine them, yes.
Yeah, no, I understand, but what about Bass Lake?
Bass Lake has setbacks. A survey be establishing the meandering of the setbacks will be provided to the town and county prior to the construction of the campground for compliance. Vegetative cover must be maintained within the setbacks.
Right.
Now, they have the setbacks listed as the 75-foot setback. So within inside the 75-foot setback, they have to have a vegetated cover. But also they reference that this plan project is also one of the conditions for approval. And if there's a change to that, it requires town and zoning committee approval to change that plan. So I think in that aspect, it does cover setbacks and buffering.
Okay. Okay, any more discussion?
Okay, before we vote, I'm just gonna go through this because we don't want to have any issues. So you're approving the conditional use permit with these conditions that you've just outlined. And in doing so, you find that there is no significant damage to the rights of others. Is that correct? There's no evidence that would have significant damage to the rights of others?
It complies with our comprehensive plan.
Okay, it does that, okay, but you don't find, they suggest it was to destroy property rights. I understand that was all opinion, but are you finding there was no substantial evidence to suggest it would destroy the rights of others?
Based on the facts given, I do not feel that.
Okay,
Well, Mr. Swanson, was there any solid evidence that the
next person too.
their appraisals were going to change, or that's all hearsay?
no,
as
no,
well?
it was all hearsay. I mean, that, but all I'm trying to
Nothing was
say,
presented to you, Jay, where they showed their appraisal prior to this and now their appraisal today.
It would have been presented to us.
No, I don't remember seeing any kind of values for that. It was just that property values would be decreased. And we sometimes get that too from realtors, but again, you could hire a realtor to spin it the other way.
and remember, it's the concept of what it could do versus what it would do.
What it did do.
Yeah, so, and again, and you've also, there's been discussion about wetlands, there's discussion of ecology, there's discussion about the aquifer. You didn't find that granting this conditional use permit would any way have a significant detriment on the wetland, the ecology, or the shoreline. Well, there's no shorelines. Is that correct?
Correct, and in the verbiage, it did state that he would have to have some of those things addressed, correct? The water, I'm sorry, I don't recall the name of.
Yeah,
the water
a
test.
wetland delineation. There's requirements for the wastewater and septage.
Okay. And you did not find that there was anything in this plan that was going to have a significant effect on air quality, water supply, or pollution. Is that correct?
Not year round, but possibly the smoke may be an issue, but I don't think that it's,
Is that an issue that's unique?
no.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Sorensen, I need
yes,
to
sir.
get my question answered regarding the aquifer though, and I'm not blaming Jay or anybody. You just,
Well, do
you
you,
probably don't know.
well, I know enough about aquifer because I used to be a mining specialist, but you're not going to affect the aquifer unless you drill into the aquifer and you put poison into the aquifer. Now that could happen, but it could happen just as easy with a single family residence. It certainly could happen if we turn this into a hog farm or a steer farm, or that would be much worse, quite frankly. I'm sorry. And if that's what you do for a living, I still, or if you did turn it into a mine.
The environment just concerns me. So.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I got all these things. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
go ahead. No, go ahead, sir.
I don't mind coming back and representing you when you get sued, but I'd like to take care of it now.
All right.
And there's no, you understand that he's agreed to solve any topographical problems that may result with regard to runoff, erosion, vegetation cover. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you understand that as noted by the county or by the town, that there's really no significant increase in traffic that would relate to this project as compared to what it previously was used for. I think that was the, right?
correct.
And that we're not destroying prime agricultural lands, correct? I saw nods of heads and the assumption was correct. And that you do believe that, well, it is compliant with the comprehensive plan. You've already said that, so I'm not going there again. I just want that in the record because that's the stuff that we're going to have to look at. And when you got to your conditions, you've already made the statements with regard to your conditions, because now we have to look at the conditions and make sure none of these conditions cannot be met by the applicant, that you haven't created a condition that's impossible to meet. It'd be like saying we'll never interfere with the neighbor's Wi-Fi. I mean, you don't know if you're going to or not, but That may be an impossible condition. You can't have impossible conditions.
That was one of the conditions that was put in there. I believe Mr. Schuman has. Yeah, we should probably look at that condition.
And traffic, it's gonna be a traffic.
Well, but the question with traffic is it going to substantially change the traffic pattern when it was a golf course and it was a?
I think so.
We could delete that condition, Wi-Fi.
Yeah, provisions are to be made so that there is no reduction of or impact on broadband, internet, or Wi-Fi service for adjacent property owners due to campground activity.
Right, so we should probably delete that condition.
I don't know how a person could meet that condition.
I don't either. I mean, it's no different than the Berkey weekend.
So we take it out of it.
The Berkey weekend lasts 2 days, and this is all summer. That's the difference.
You can leave it in there, but I just, I'm politely telling you, I don't know how they're gonna do, you're gonna measure that.
They have to be measurable and practical. I don't know how you're gonna measure that either.
No, I agree.
But
Well, they obviously have a way to measure internet speed. I mean,
Just-
they
just-
update it, they make it faster. This isn't a crazy concept.
again, we'll keep our conversation here, so we're gonna leave it in. Is that the idea? Okay, it's gonna stay. I'm ready to, I'm sorry to,
No, that's fine. That's what we got here.
I know that I delay this thing, make it longer than it needs to be, but
Right.
No, that's fine.
But I'm paid by the hour, so what the heck? No.
Okay.
Well, I think we want what's best for the people. We want what's best for the county. It has to be a respectful level.
And it has to show that you considered everything that was said in the room today. And under Wisconsin law, I mean, once you rezone this property, you change the rules, so to speak, so.
And we wanted to run to the buyer, right, not to the land. Is that understood?
You better make that statement then.
Okay, I mean, if you don't mind, I would like to amend your motion to restrict the conditional use permit to the buyer and not.
The applicant.
The applicant.
Right, for the applicant, sorry.
So that anyone secondarily would have to come back and apply.
Right.
And understand that when you say that, if he changed his LLC, but it was still the same company and the same people, then it still applies.
Right, no.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to.
You need to change
approve.
that.
Can I,
Yeah,
Go ahead.
is that in there? The
don't we have to, doesn't Stacy have to agree to the change to the amendment before we can vote on it?
You did, didn't you?
I agree to the change of the amendment.
She agreed, Ms. Bennett.
Thank you.
You bet.
Do you agree with your second? Ms. Pettit?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Bruce, what were you saying?
No,
That's true.
Okay, all right. So we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve CUPs 22-006 and 22-007. Is there any more discussion?
With the conditions as stated.
Yep, with the conditions as stated. No more discussion. Roll call, Kathy?
Bruce Paulson,
yes.
John Pettit,
Yes.
Tweet Schuman,
No.
Stacy Hessel,
Yes.
Ron Buckholz,
No.
3-2 in favor.
And we've already discussed the findings of facts with that. Moving on to new business. I have a certified survey map that goes across the external boundaries of an existing plat. As per Wisconsin Chapter 236, it requires zoning committee approval.
You recommending it?
I would recommend it. It meets the minimum lot zone district requirements. They're actually just,
I'll second that.
Wait.
Holy smoke.
Yeah.
I know.
yeah, and they're actually just moving lines over. There's,
No, but I mean, if the subject matter expert agrees, I'm for it.
Okay,
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
we have a motion and a second on the floor to approve the survey map over existing county plat? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Next one.
That's that one. The next one is for a county subdivision. Map up on the screen here. This is known as Brody Lane Estates, which isn't far from where the campground just was there. This is for a 6-lot subdivision. Anything more than 4 lots within a 5-year time frame requires is a county subdivision. This was approved at the town. They heard this and approved it. Generally, when I see these types of subdivision plats, I default to the towns. They're going to be more of the subject experts, and really what it boils down to, is the roadways and whether or not they're adequate to incorporate that many lots. This road is already built to town road specs, and again is for a 6-lot subdivision. This would require kind of 2 separate action items, one being approval of the preliminary plat, which is the one up on the screen, and then potential approval of the final plat if there are no other conditions or acceptance or rejections. We can do this in 2 separate motions for the final plat. As a subject expert manner, I see no issues with this proposed county subdivision.
Okay.
They're a little bit further back. They may see some RVs driving on the road, but they're not going to see the campground. It's about a quarter mile south of Fun Valley.
Oh, do I need to abstain because my son lives in that subdivision?
Probably.
Then I will do that.
I'll make a motion.
Whoa. If you abstain, do we have a quorum?
Abstain.
Oh, no, yeah, we do.
Yes,
have
on-
a-
yes.
I was gonna say, we'll find a way around it if we don't have a quorum.
My son lives there. I don't want.
That's fine. You could always not participate and not vote, but I
You
was,
tell me now. I could have done that at the last one.
no. I wouldn't have told you that until now.
Okay, we
So
have,
again, this would be for the preliminary plat.
okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Brody Estates preliminary plat.
I'll second it.
You guys don't even need me here. You guys don't even need
No,
me
look
here.
right at you, Chairman.
Have they voted? Yes, we do.
Yeah, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
One extension.
One
One
extension.
extension.
One extension, that's, yes.
And then this would be for the final plat approval process. And if there are no other approvals with conditions or rejections, which need to be stated in writing, I'd be looking for a motion of approval of the final plat.
I'm okay with that, right?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor
Oh, second.
to approve the final plat.
Ron and Bruce.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, motion carries to approve.
One
One
abstain.
extension.
And one extension.
Thank you.
And that's all I got for right now.
Okay,
But we don't have to talk about temporary storage containers.
I'm sending that on to the towns to be reviewed at their town meetings in April.
I thought we could be here another 4 hours.
We could, if you wanted. And right now, April is pretty busy as well, and so is May already.
That means people are
so
building.
keep your schedule open.
Why?
Not you, Mr. Paulson.
So that does raise a question.
We are
So
on this-
because
Thank you.
April will have a new board.
Thank you.
Is this board staying the same or do we have a whole changeover?
Well, that would be
It's
up to the county board chair.
Right.
I'm staying on, I hope.
Yeah.
He just told you there's no question.
And
Is May concluded?
Yes.
We're under new business,
Thank
so
you.
any other business that may.
No, we're done, Don. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, gentlemen. Ms. Costello.
Thank you.